So good morning, everyone. I see that many people are already joined and many will be joining in a second. Good morning. Nice to see you all here. Welcome to this event. It's titled Equipping European SMEs with Skill and Digital Technologies for the Digital Transformation. It's a very good place today to have the discussion on this very important topic. And I look forward also to hear from all the panelists, and we have a very packed agenda for today. So we will be starting in a few minutes with the housekeeping rules and how the event will follow for the next 3 hours. In the meantime, that we are waiting for other people to join, feel free to grab a coffee and listen in a few seconds. Perfect. I see many people have already joined, so I can officially start with the webinar today. Welcome again for those that just joined. Happy to see many of you in the audience and also seeing already many speakers connected. So just a few words from my side. I'm Gabriele Casalini. I will be guiding the discussion today as a moderator. It's a pleasure for me to have co-organized this workshop and also guiding the discussion today with our panel of excellent speakers. And I'm Tech Project Officer from the European Digital SME Alliance, and we are the largest European association of ICT SMEs. And for us, the digital transformation and the digital skills topic are very important for the discussion, especially at European level. So I really look forward to the discussion today and also to hear from all the excellent speakers that we gathered today. As a first, housekeeping rules and how the event will play out. You can see the agenda here. We have different sections of today's event. We will have some opening and keynote presentation. Then we will delve into expert presentation on key technology topics in different fields. Then we will listen to a very interesting panel discussion on the status, standards, and technologies underpinning the digital product passport. Then we will have a success story from an SME in our network that will be showing some digitalization processes happening in concrete companies in the field of medical devices. And the final section, we will focus on the European digital skills and ecosystem support for the digitalization of SMEs, and also the support that is at European level for supporting the upskilling and the reskilling of the workforce. Regarding the webinar, it will be fully recorded, so don't worry if you miss any section. You can also get back to it at any point later. We will be making public available, as well as all the presentations shared today. So regarding questions, we have a few slots in which we will allow for Q&A, but at any point, feel free to use the chat function or even the Q&A function. So either I can collect your questions, or also the speakers can directly see the question and try to reply during the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to the first speaker, Andrea Raffaelli. He's Senior Policy Advisor and Expert Coordination at SPS. So I leave the floor to him for the opening remarks.
Hello, thank you, Gabriele. Thanks to all of you, to our esteemed panelists and to our audience, both in presence and in Berlin and online, for their participation. My name is Andrea Raffelli, as Gabriele said, Senior Policy Officer and Experts Coordinator at SBS, Small Business Standards. On behalf of our organization that represents the interests of European SMEs in standardization, I would like to welcome you to this event that, as we know, titled Equipping European SMEs with Skills and Technology for the Digital Transformation. This event is organized by SBS with the great support and collaboration of our friends and colleagues at DTV and at the European Digital SME Alliance. Perhaps to start off, a couple of quick words on us, on the role of SBS, what we do to represent and defend the interests of SMEs in standardization at European and international level and ensure that SMEs can benefit from standards. First off, the heartbeat of our work at SBS, we appoint, support, and finance technical experts, almost 80 in 2025, to technical bodies representing common SME positions. And it's great to see a few of our experts today among the speakers to bring their testimony and expertise. We also have events like this to raise awareness and provide platform to discuss together with policymakers, entrepreneurs, standards practitioners, and other stakeholders on topics of great importance for SMEs, and particularly when present, their links with standardization. We have an ambitious event today. I will not take away too much of your time, but a few words on the central theme, that is that of skill and digital transformation. The digitalization of industry is a challenge for all of our SMEs across Europe, but perhaps at times even more so for SMEs that are active in more perhaps traditional industries and economic sectors, who now have to adapt to fast developing and ever-evolving trends and tools. This is why it's absolutely vital to build a closely knit cooperation among more traditional SMEs and digitally native SMEs, creating an ecosystem where they can help each other and they can all thrive and grow together. And this cooperation is particularly important when it comes to skills. Digital SMEs can be the protagonists in the process of upskilling and reskilling workers across different sectors. This process can also be supported by public authorities, both at national and European level, by promoting financial incentives that SMEs can use for the reskilling and upskilling of the workforce, and to promote and initiatives to promote skills development without overlooking VET, vocational education and training, and continuing education. This is why occasions like this event, bringing together policymakers, SMEs, entrepreneurs, and other stakeholders and practitioners, are so crucial. We very much look forward to hearing more from our panelists about their proposals, initiatives, experiences, and best practices. We will tackle this topic, as Gabriele mentioned already, from different angles and technology areas, from cybersecurity to AI to medical devices to PPE, looking at SMEs' testimonies and success stories, highlighting key technology trends in their sector. Then we will have a topic of, I think, particular importance, that is a deep dive on technology and standards with a spotlight on the digital product passport, which is an instrument that we all are hearing a lot about in the last couple of years, an instrument that promises to revolutionize the European single market, for which standardization work is ongoing, and we have some excellent experts to shed some light on that, and that we are all looking forward to knowing more about. In short, a lot to tackle, a lot of meat on the bone, but also a lot to listen to and a lot to learn. So I will close my quick introductory remarks on this. Thank you very much to all of you again for being here, and I will leave the floor to our wonderful panelists for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I think we are all excited now to hear from the excellent speakers that we have gathered today. So first of all, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Joachim Schwerin, he's Principal Economist DG Growth from the European Commission, and he will be setting the stage for today's discussion with his presentation on the European perspective and initiatives that are taking place right now at European level. So thank you very much for being here today with us, and the floor is yours.
Gabriele, thank you very much for your kind introduction, and Andrea for this excellent starting remarks. Joachim Schwerin, Principal Economist in the unit that deals with responsible business practices in DG GROW. My main task is to work on blockchain crypto tokenization policy. I've been doing that for a very long time, but I was also the initiator of the large-scale partnership in the digital ecosystem under the Pact for Skills, for example, and skills work, but also SME policy has formed a large part of my professional career. I am very grateful for the organizers and all participants for this very exciting but also challenging program. We put quite a mix together here on SME-related aspects of digital transformation, digital product passport, cybersecurity, standardization. All of that is very important by itself, but the combination of it makes it even more complex and challenging. So I will tackle the items one by one. I was reminded earlier this morning, notably 10 minutes ago, that we not only talk about skills and software, but also hardware, because apparently the power supply of my computer has just broken down and I'm living on the battery. So I trust that my computer gives me 15 more minutes here until it finally breaks down, but let's see. So the European Commission indeed has been very active in the various fields, and you all know very well that skills development and education activities have been at the forefront of our work since many years. We are in the middle of what we call the digital decade, and you are all aware of the digital compass that we presented at the beginning of the decade, where we looked at the digital transformation of European industrial ecosystems, but specifically our 24 million SMEs. And now this has been accelerated by the current discussions on the Startup and Scale-up initiative, where a lot of questions, not only on technology and infrastructures, but also access to finance, access to markets are being discussed. It's not a new theme. It is actually sometimes frustrating how slow progress is, but at least we are moving in a direction where we, I think, get a more reasonable and granular understanding of how the elements come together. Within the digital decade, we formulated a number of objectives. So, for example, that at the end of the decade, we have 20 million ICT specialists in Europe, that 80% of the population has at least basic digital skills, and that we work on inclusivity, not only regarding gender, but also lifetime work balance, for example. And these topics are also at the core of the digital ecosystems large-scale partnership that I mentioned, which we created a few years ago. And I'm very grateful to the European Digital SME Alliance that is an ambassador of this initiative, but also everyone who is active and supporting in this regard. By now, we have presented a new initiative earlier this year, the Union of Skills, where we focus on some areas that merit specific attention. That includes STEM education, to look more into indeed the technical, mathematical and engineering capabilities, but also an initiative on the development of basic skills. I mentioned the KPIs for the digital decade at the beginning. We are moving in this direction, but we are far away from achieving all the objectives. And that has, of course, a lot to do with reality and complexity of technologies, which I will mention in a second. Now, I've been working for more than 10 years specifically on SME policy. And I find it important to define what are the interesting areas when we come specifically to SMEs, because reality shows that the large amount of SMEs, the largest percentage, is actually not at all or only very, I would say, slowly digitizing. And this has a number of reasons. Of course, most companies are micro companies. Many companies are buried under, I would say, a load of information that is difficult to digest. I hear very often that we do not have a lack of information, but we have a lack of the condensation of credible information. And this is also why organizations, as all of you here present today, are so important to aggregate that. So when we come to digital skills, about a decade ago, we identified 5 areas that for us form digital skills. Number 1, information and data literacy. Then communication and collaboration. 3rd, digital content creation. 4th, safety. And last but not least, what I find very relevant, problem solving by using digital tools. Because digitalization can never be an objective by itself. It has to be meaningful. And indeed, at this moment, we see a number of broader and broader movements, specifically in countries like Germany, but also others, where people do not want to digitize. And I can fully understand that, because we have a number of developments ranging from cybersecurity to lack of data protection, etc. But also when it comes to finance, for example, keeping cash instead of digital payments, there's a lot of skepticism as regards the safety and reliance of digital structures. And this skepticism is fully merited. So when we talk about digitalization, actually a number of elements have to come together to bring that forward. I just see a question popping up here if there are any slides. No, we agreed when we prepared this meeting here today that I speak for 15 minutes on some general things. This is why I do not have slides, as most of the presentators afterwards have slides, but I will be happy to supply some material afterwards if that is of interest. Now, we said that SMEs are a very, I would say, incoherent group of enterprises regarding their specific needs. I would say that regardless of whether a company is digitized or not, there are three areas in the digital domain that matter for every company, regardless of whether it considers itself as digitized or not. And the number one is to deal with data. You know that we have the General Data Protection Regulation. It has been criticized a lot at the beginning. I was involved in these discussions very much, and I understand that. Of course, it's a lot of bureaucracy, but to us, it is what I would say the constitution of how we approach the digital economy, because it gives the rights back to the individuals. The data belong to the individual, and the individual decides what to do with the data. And this is a deliberate confrontation of the parasitic structures that we have specifically in the current internet, where the big tech basically control your data and the use of this data, but also where a lot of people do not trust governments because we have a lot of public platforms or public wallets, but it is a mere question of whether you believe them or not that your data are protected, and very often they are not. So the GDPR and how to deal with the privacy of data and to get active consent if you use any data is of essential importance because also the fines, of course, can be significant. Second, cybersecurity. And cybersecurity, I know, will be discussed a lot, but it is a recurring thing. We in the European Commission make regular exercises to build up cybersecurity skills in our workforce. We have, depending on what systems we use, 30,000 to 50,000 people working in all the different European institutions. We do about 4 to 6 exercises every year to see if people click the wrong button. And I can tell you that 20 to 60% of the colleagues click the wrong button. That is thousands of people where one click suffices to get you into trouble. And this is also what SMEs face. The attacks become ever more sophisticated. They use deepfakes, AIs, new forms of technology, and they're increasingly difficult to detect. So wherever you position yourself, the moment that you have exposure to the digital domain, cybersecurity, education, and skills development has to be a priority. And the third aspect that I would like to include is what I call crowd management. Because when you deal on digital platforms with an audience that can be your customers, that can be your suppliers, that can be anyone you interact with, the dynamics of the interaction is different from the traditional world. What you see is that it is much faster. What you see is that it is much more demanding, but it can also be very helpful because it reduces a lot of time delays. It is much more inclusive by getting direct feedback and not filtered feedback through intermediaries, etc. And companies that have any exposure to the digital domains are very well advised to invest also in these skills regarding communication and collaboration online. So these are, for me, the essential things that need to be considered. But then, of course, we have advanced technologies. And advanced technologies, I briefly speak about 3 in the interest of time. Of course, what is my core matter is blockchain. Blockchain is a very secure way of scaling up trust building and confidence in the digital domain through technology. Data on blockchain is immutable. You can fully ensure the integrity and the originality of either a product or a statement or any other item that is of value to a company. but you need to be very sure to protect the data, specifically if anything is on-chain, which is why the GDPR stipulates that personal data has to be off-chain. Now, blockchain for us is a game-changing technology that is an enabler for self-organization and a bottom-up approach in our societies to emerge. That is basically the DNA of humanity, that people look themselves for communities in which they share the same values, and then they build this value and trade this value using containers. And these containers in the digital domain we call tokens. So actually all of this is very simple. We had ledgers, we had tokens. We also had digital cooperatives that we now call DAOs in the form of traditional cooperatives throughout the history of mankind. But now technology enables us to scale this, and this is very promising. At the same time, we have, of course, artificial intelligence, which has none of these safeguards, but which enables you to amass lots of data much more faster and analyze them much more quickly. Here, the point kicks again in who is the owner of these data and also how reliable is the outcome, which is why we have very detailed discussions on that, which I can, of course, not cover in my introductory words here to deal with that. And the third element that I find very important is quantum technology. And this is very interesting because we don't know when quantum technology breaks through. It will be very transparent because all the investment and progress is very well documented. But the first one who really scales quantum technology will be able to break open all these centralized data systems that we now have, which are very poorly protected. And this is why it is a time not to trust anymore any cloud services or any centralized data infrastructures unless you can ensure that they are quantum proof. And the only standards that I am aware of that are quantum proof or where we have very detailed roadmaps of what we do in this situation are actually blockchain based. Whether they are in the Ethereum ecosystem, in the Bitcoin ecosystem and others, there are very clear ways ahead and also standards emerging that can make encryption standards quantum proof to the extent that we know it of today to deal with the algorithms. But this has to be taken into account right now. So the real discussion, I would say, is not so much about the convergence of blockchain and AI, which is taking place, but how we can actually get centralized systems more distributed in order to be better protected and resilient when we come to cyber threats. And this is where standardization, again, very, very much matters. And tokens that I mentioned as the digital containers that contain value are indeed standardized if they are of any value. Imagine a physical container in the real world. One of the big advantages that it has is that you can put it on a lorry, on a train, on a ship, in a plane. It has the same size. It is very easy to handle with and transport, but it does the necessary thing. It protects the content. It is closed. You cannot see from the outside what is in. And in can be anything. It can be money, it can be physical products, it can be documents, it can be nothing. That is exactly what a token does in the digital domain. And for this, we need standardization. So all of this is of very great importance. And I know, and I'm again grateful for a number of the participants here that very actively engage with us in the standardization policies. And I can only encourage that to go further. I have the impression that we do not have a lack of standardization initiatives, but we have a problem in getting this information through to the SMEs. Because even for me as an expert, it is extremely complex to follow the ongoing discussion in standardization committees. It's very time consuming. And therefore, we need a condensation of content and a translation towards those that have to use these standards and get their voice better heard in standardization. Finally, the bottom line of all of this is indeed the protection of business secrets and privacy. In digitalization, what you get is you get a change of the balance between personal comfort zones or safety and transparency. In the offline world, you can go to your home, you can close the door. If you are fed up with the people you live with, you take a walk in the forest or whatever you do, you have privacy and you know when you have privacy. In the digital domain, everything by default can be seen. And at the moment, it can be protected to a certain extent, but you have to foresee the technological future in order to make this really privacy proof. And this is why the privacy enhancing technologies are so important. Unfortunately, we have instances in Europe, and the courts in the Netherlands with the Tornado Cash case are an example, where actually they put developers in jail that program smart contracts, which are then publicly available on the internet and used by criminals to do criminal things. And there the liability apparently lies on the programmer. This is a terrible example of how you can disincentivize digital innovation in Europe by attacking the wrong people that are not responsible for the abuse of their products. And this is actually a principle we don't have in the real economy as such. So here again, we are faced with the situation that we have legal principles in civil law that exist for SMEs in their everyday activities. But once you program something for the digital transformation, you run a risk of being exposed to liability that otherwise you don't have. This is just one more example of the complexity of the things that we are facing. I hope that today we get more structure in this discussion, that we have a meaningful discussion also on deliverables and the future outcomes. And I'm very grateful again that you come together here to discuss this. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Excellent presentation, and I think you perfectly captured all the challenges and also opportunities in the digitalization and also in the emerging technologies, considering also the risks if we do not address all these changes and developments in the proper manner, especially in the digitalization of the European industry. And also this discussion will also be timely because we also be touching on the digital skills part that really it is needed to support all these changes, especially at the speed that it's currently changing. So thank you very much again. Feel free to stick around for a few minutes in case there are questions in the chat. As a reminder, we really welcome and encourage any kind of interaction in the chat. Our list of speakers are very eager to reply to all your questions. And right now, we will be starting to delve into specific topics, so we can also deep dive into the discussion in particular fields. We collected a few relevant topics today, from the digitalization of the healthcare sector, identification and labeling supported by digital technologies, but also smart textile, use cybersecurity and regulatory compliance, and also artificial intelligence. So without further ado, I would also leave the floor to our first speaker, that will be Alena Bubek, project manager at Steinbeiß Europe Centrum, and she's also the coordinator of the ShiftUp project, which is supporting digitalization specifically in the healthcare sector. After her, we will also have Evdokimos Konstantinidis, that he will provide further context on data spaces and how actually projects can support the use of data, especially in the medical and healthcare field. So, Alena, thank you very much for joining, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabriele. So, just quickly sharing the screen. All right, you should see my slides, right? Hope so.
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, so thanks a lot for the invitation, the kind introduction. I'm here to present ShiftUp and basically our approach on how we want to facilitate the digitalization and the usage of smart health applications in the healthcare sector. As I've already said, I'm Alena Bubek. I'm a project manager at the Steinbeiß Europa Zentrum in Germany. So we're an innovation consulting and project management company with a focus on facilitating European innovation. So basically, we do all kinds of activities to enable innovators to grow. And in ShiftUp, we are coordinating the project with the aim really here to foster the development and the uptake of smart health technologies. So our project is actually a European coordination support action funded by the European Commission. And this means we're not a project that is actually doing research itself, but we are coordinating and implementing support actions for innovation ecosystems and networks across Europe. And this is also exactly what we're doing within our project, because with the received funding, we're really focusing on creating a smart health innovations and futures technologies hub. So similar to the European Digital Innovation Hubs, but now focused, of course, on smart health. And when I say we, I'm referring to 12 partners in the consortium that represent important stakeholders and expertise within the smart health ecosystem. And that includes 3 universities as knowledge providers, 4 organizations as innovation intermediaries, of course, with the experience in how to support and connect diverse stakeholders, and then also 3 technology providers with different tools for our services, and then 2 partners specialized in engaging our target groups, which include small and medium-sized enterprises and technology providers, as well as patients. And together, our main goal of this hub is to facilitate the development, ensure the promotion, and then finally foster the uptake of the smart health technologies and services. And with this, we want to provide a holistic service offer that basically connects and builds value for all the stakeholders in the smart health innovation ecosystem. And that, of course, includes first and foremost the citizens and patients, healthcare professionals, as well as developers of smart health technologies, and then also the policy and the decision makers. And the services that our hub is offering are centered around 3 main pillars. And these pillars represent 3 key values that are designed to meet the needs of our diverse stakeholders. So they are either to build and boost the innovation, or to connect and thrive collaboration, or to learn and grow the knowledge. So whatever it is a user is looking for in value, they can find the respective services listed under these 3 values on our website. But I would like to quickly go through the services to give you a more detailed impression on what our hub is actually providing. So the Build and Boost pillar contains services to really support here the development and uptake of smart health products. So these are services rather directed towards technology providers and the developers. And these range from generating new ideas over finding right partners and finance access to really showcasing the developed solutions to the end users. So with these services here, we basically want to cover the entire pathway of application development. So for example, we start in our open innovation workshops, which focus on idea generation and really road mapping to facilitate getting the idea into implementation. And then when you're ready to put your ideas to use, we offer support in finding access to finance, private as well as public, and also access to health data to develop and test your new digital solutions. And then during the development process, our Live-in Labs offer the opportunities to test and to co-create the solutions with the actual end users, so you get direct feedback. And then finally, once your solution is market ready, or I'd say more developed, in our demo days, they give you the visibility and opportunities to showcase them to the end users, just to get a higher outreach. If we have a look at the Connect and Thrive pillar, so this contains basically service to foster the collaborations and the exchange among the stakeholders. And also we want to focus here on building and supporting the smart health community across Europe. So this is really about connecting the stakeholders and thriving the collaboration. Our central point here is the community platform, which hosts several events, workshops, and also matchmaking opportunities. One of the key initiatives here in this community is also the focus group on e-health, which is a vibrant network which is dedicated to advancing digital health. So here we foster collaboration between experts on different topics to really generate concrete ideas and also policy positions. These topics included shared data spaces, AI or cybersecurity. And all of this really with the aim to inform the decision shaping in the European smart health sector. We also organize huge international conferences to connect the stakeholders. So actually our 3rd conference was just held last week in Thessaloniki on the topic of smart health in AI, so driving innovation with data, with over 250 participants on site and online. So that was also a great way to connect the stakeholders. And we also implement events such as our entrepreneurial discovery workshop series, in which we identify, compare, and then really map structures between regional innovation ecosystems. Here, the aim is really to involve policymakers and also to create recommendations for the support of regional ecosystems, and really inform to enable more informed decision making, to support them better and bring innovation actually to the market. We actually only published our policy recommendations recently that were drawn from these event series and can also be found on our website. And then in the last pillar, the Grow and Learn, pillar, we focus on the services to foster the exchange and knowledge of best practices, for example. So some services here focus on citizens and healthcare professionals as well, such as the educational resources on smart health and digital applications. So here we want to increase the trust in smart health or digital applications and really improve also the digital literacy of the people that are using them. Another service is our gamified user journey, which is directed at citizens. So here we created 5 mini games to really increase the population's knowledge on smart health related matters and diseases. Yeah, just to get everyone a bit more familiar with health and your own healthcare and just enabling them to stay informed in a playful way. And then lastly, the capacity building workshops. So they, on the other hand, focus more on the exchange of the professional ecosystem stakeholders, such as digital innovation hubs, research institutions, policymakers, or healthcare providers. And in these workshops, we facilitate knowledge exchange and best practices sharing. We implemented several of them already on topics such as open innovation and living lab methodology. And we will actually just have the next workshop on the test before invest strategies and demo day services next Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to have a look at our community platform where the event is hosted. So it's an online workshop where you can participate yourself and be active in these sessions and exchange. Before I close my introduction of the hub, I would like to point out 2 services a bit more in detail, which might be of special interest for our audience today. The first is our ShiftUp community. I've already talked a bit about it. So this community is a dynamic online space with the aim to connect here the stakeholders across the European smart health ecosystem. Really here for fostering collaboration and accelerating the adoption of smart health technologies and services. So getting them out there and getting people to know them. Currently, we have more than 650 users, international members connected on this platform. And for them, we provide here, amongst others, a marketplace for them to showcase their solutions and also to find future partnerships. And additionally, via our platform, you can gain access to all of our events, such as brokerage events, B2B matchmakings, the focus groups, for example, other workshops, and other networking opportunities. So if we have a closer look at the community, so the community basically covers stakeholder groups of all smart health ecosystem representatives, which includes different tech companies, healthcare providers, healthcare professionals, patients sometimes, and also innovation intermediaries. And then via the platform, you can also reach out to the members via direct messaging. So there's no need to actually share your contact information openly, but you can still reach out via the platform, for example, to connect with potential business partners or find new collaborations to submit proposals, for example. So if that is of interest for you, I encourage you to explore it or maybe set up a profile yourself. It's quite quickly to do so, and it's also free. So yeah, you're free to explore it yourself. And the other point I would like to, or the other service I would like to point out is the education repository. So this is basically a repository or an online platform that is offering a curated selection of learning resources for citizens as well as healthcare professionals, with the aim really to enhance the proficiency in smart health technologies in general. So what we did basically was providing a summary of accessible, high-quality educational content and courses to equip the healthcare professionals and other stakeholders with essential digital skills. Because only if the digital skills are advanced, or I'd say at least, provided in a good way, then the digital and the smart health technologies can be used. So basically, we have collected here educational resources on more than 15 different topics, which are sorted according to the type, the access, pricing, sources, audience, and also the language. So you can basically go through the catalog and identify which courses and researches might be of interest for you in order to kind of, find the right courses and get to know them, because sometimes it's quite problematic or difficult to obtain an overall overview and find courses because they're hidden on different websites. So we basically here collected them within one, I'd say, catalog for you to go through them easily. And if you're interested in learning more about the project, future events, or other services, we are of course happy if you become part of the ShiftHub community. You can also find further information on the services on our website. I went through that quite quickly because I wanted to leave more time actually for one of our ShiftHub colleagues from the Aristotle University in Thessaloniki, so Evdokimos, and he will give you more detailed introduction now into the digitalization of the healthcare sector, European data spaces, and also ways to securely share the data. So he will introduce you also to RAISE, which is a platform for secure data sharing that we're collaborating with. And yeah, I'm happy to hand over to Evdokimos.
Thank you, Elena. I'm presenting my screen. Can you confirm that you can see it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Thanks, Gabriela. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. As Alan presented, it's a domain, challenging domain, actually, all these health companies, but also data. And the important thing, or actually the one that I'm going to focus is on the data, how we can get access to the data. So this is a part of the ShiftHub, because ShiftHub has described a lot about European health data spaces, or actually approach towards European health data space, because at the moment the ShiftHub was conceived, the European health data spaces were not there yet, and they're still no concrete. So in an effort of going closer to this concept of European health data spaces, we collaborate with RAISE. I coordinate the RAISE project. It's a NEOS project, and it's about accessing and processing data with trust. So actually what we try to do is to democratize data sharing and data spaces. And to do so, we borrowed the concept of the peer-to-peer home renting platforms. So like you do in home renting platforms, if you have your home, you can offer your home for renting, and then others visit your home. So in our case, you can have your data ready to be processed, to be visited in your premises, and then you have algorithms visiting your data set. So what we try to achieve with this shift from data sharing to data visiting is that we increase privacy protection, ownership accreditation, compliance, and traceability. How this is done, let's say that the RAISE certified node, it's your premises, your organization's premises, or your premises actually, even your computer, and then you have your data in there. You have a request for a processing script that comes from outside, from another researcher or company, and then a trust execution environment is created in your environment, in your premises. The corresponding datasets will be transferred in there. The script is applied in the datasets. The results are produced. The results go back to the person who requested access for processing, and then the trust execution environment is deleted. So you see, the data never leaves the premises. This is how the marketplace looks like. Here you can see datasets come from many different nodes. In the case of ShiftHub, we're going to have also such a marketplace in the ShiftHub webpage where we will have mainly health data, because RAISE is not only about health, it's in general for any domain or any dataset. Here is how an experiment looks like. So we had the dataset here, and then the script, and here we have the results. And we produce also persistent identifier, a DOI. And this is resolvable. So if you click in doi.org and the PID that we create for each experiment, you get all the information, all the metadata actually. This is actually, we expose everything through APIs. We try not to frustrate researchers further or companies. So we try to integrate or to create the plugins in order for us to be integrated in platforms they use already. For instance, we have Visual Studio Code plugins, SDKs for Python, etc. And we are not another data portal, but we try to become the infrastructure for brokering scripts and datasets. By using RAISE, you can also have a better understanding or a better understanding of the impact of your dataset, because you cannot see only how many downloaded, but how many processed and how many times. So you can have a better understanding of the impact of your dataset. You can store data in public certified nodes like we have in the State University of Thessaloniki, or you can set up your own private node. You can allow your data to be processed by anyone, or saying that your data sets required access request before being processed. And in order to go to hospital, since we have sensitive data and it's kind of more strict, or the most strict environment, let's say, what we have is actually we introduce the data owner auditing of the results, which means that I process the data, I send the script for processing hospital data. The results are produced, but I'm not getting the results back until the data project officer of the hospital sees, audits, approves, or rejects the results before I getting access to them. In order to support, we have a static analysis of the code and also dynamic analysis of the code to make sure that everything runs smoothly and without any issues, since we want to facilitate others to use the data. So when you share your data, actually the point is that you want this to be used by others and not to create barriers for the other stores using it. So we allow template scripts like parsers to be uploaded. You can set the results to be downloaded by others or only by your team. This again the metrics, and it's already online and will be integrated in Shift Hub really next days. That was all from my side. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Evdokimos, and also thank you very much, Elena, for setting the stage, especially on the topic of data. We heard from a practical example on how data can be used for research, especially, but data can also be used underpinning any process in the company setting. And with that, I thank you again for your participation. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Jörg Koopman, that he will be sharing few insights on the process of identification and labeling. So thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Please help me to share my screen.
Yes, you should be able to share the screen. There is an option on the bottom of the screen.
No, I have no option. I got sharing.
It's called Freigeben, Jörg.
Ja, habe ich, aber da sehe ich leider nicht, dass ich einen Schirm freigeben kann.
Und Freigabe für mehrere, also es kommt, kommt erst danach, die Schirme. Einmal auf Freigeben drücken und dann kommen die einzelnen Schirme, die genommen werden.
Ah, danke dir, Sven. So
Happy to help out.
So. Hope you can see this now.
Perfect.
Okay, I have to go to the start, sorry. So Jörg Koopman, I'm not prepared to introduce my company and what we have done and what we deliver right now. I was asked to present some things about identification and labeling, but to my person, I was founder and CEO of companies, a system integrator running with auto identification in barcode and in RFID since 30 years, and UHF RFID we're handling with 20 years. And in these international projects, yes, we are asked to handle data in ways of safe and to make sure that we are at the right place in the right form. And I hope to not bore you with the basics of identification and labeling, because what we hear before is on a much higher level than that what I will show you right now. We need and we have standards to identify items, products, services, and so on. And if you do that in your own system, you can use identification keys as ever you like. But if you do it in a global, in an internet and internet network situation, then we need standards in which data are allowed, how have they to be formed, what is the data format, and what technique has to be used in identifying items, products, etc. Is there a barcode given? And if a barcode, what type of barcode is allowed? And if there is RFID allowed, which technique can be used? And if you use standard in identifying items, products, services, etc., what rules do we need in these standards? And one main rule is that the item I like to identify is in a worldwide, non-overlapping, unique term. And the key must not be allowed to any other service or product on the world. And that the standards has to make sure. And the identification can come to an item or to a group of an item. And the standard make sure that all the insights of the data structure is clearly regulated and open in public form to see for everybody who likes to aim with this standard. And the identification has to make sure that the owner of the product or the distributor of the product is inside the identification, and the article or product itself is part of it. And as I said before, we must know what technique can be used to identify. If it's a barcode or an RFID, what technique can be used for that. And there are already these standards, and sorry, it's basement, I tell you, many of you knows it, but some not. If you go to a cashier process, then you use such a standard for identifying the product, what you have paid for, and this is called the GTIN, the Global Trade Item Number. And as you see in here, the uniqueness is done because the barcode has a country identifier and a company identifier and an article identifier. And this is the basement of identifying and for a group of products. And if you like to go to an item, this shirt or what else product, then you append a serial number, and this standard is called SGTIN. And on that, the whole system of RFID systems or barcode systems also grow up their solutions. So if you have that form of identifiability, availability, then you have the basement of interchange data with others. And that is what we hear before. There are databases, there are possibilities of transferring data, but we must to make sure that we can exchange. So Sven Schöppel knows if I send him a G-ray that how he has to interpret this data and comes to the same results than me. And we must make sure that he gets the right data I send or the same data I send, and that he got the same information as I think he get. And there are standards for not only products, there are standards for global returnable assets like roll containers or individual assets as I sit on a chair in the furniture or what else, to documents. These document types and all of that can be transferred by standards. And so we have all of this, and we can use this in identifying and in exchanging data with this. It's an old theme, but not all knows that, for example, in trading, we see the EDI, the electronic data interchange between different partners. And this is a working situation where we see that we can have order processing, invoicing, shipping, and receivement in exchange data using standards. So nobody has to have its individual protocol between two partners. We can use these standards to exchange data. And on that, we can have the identification from the source till to end of life. And we heard it right now. There's a new upcoming, very, very important solution, the digital product pass. And in before, we have the situation that we want to see the whole journey of a product in a database. And for that, we are using EPCIS, Electronic Product Code Information Services, to have all events captured in production, shipping, distribution, and sales to make sure that this is, for example, not a fake product, it's an original product, or this is a product which has cycled 20 times of viewing in a hospital, or what else. And yes, we can use blockchain with this to make sure we have safe data, but it's the basement, and we can use these kind of standards to have the data in for the digitalization, for virtualization, for interpretation, and everything we just heard before. And for digital product pass, we can use them also as for IoT. And I would like to finish my short introduction with a very short best case. You see this beer. From this beer, you see a G10. So this is the group identification for the beer. There are thousands, hundreds of this beer on the market. But if you see it in here, there is a QR code also. And if you use your handy, yet just right now, take it, try to scan this QR barcode, and then you will see what our speakers before had told you. With this, you come to the digital data of my beer. And if everything works fine, you got an answer. This individual beer got a name. It's Alex. And this beer belongs to Jörg. And I hope that Sven Schöppe got the same information and not another name or another owner. And we must make sure, and this shows how important it is to get the right data to the people which are allowed to get this data. So I hope this little statement on standards and this best practice shows you the thing we are talking about. We have an item and we want to get the right information. This might not be a beer. This can be a product or what else. And we must make sure that people who are allowed to get the information get the right information and not something else. So this is the standard and this is the basement for digital product pass. And I have to say, yeah, thank you for listening. And I hope the basements are not boring you, but this is where we start all of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jörg. It was a very interesting presentation, especially also on the practical implementation of standards and how they support the digital development, not only in the regulation compliance at the European level, but also how to track all the supply chain and how to actually use data and digital technologies easily to follow this process. So everyone feel free to ask any questions in the chat. In the meantime, we will proceed with the next presentation, and I will leave the floor to Mr. Christoph Riedmüller. He's Head of Technology and Center Smart Living Textile at DITS. In the meantime, Jörg, could you please remove the presentation, and I think then Christoph can start sharing his own. Thank you.
So I hope everybody sees my screen, but it's on the end. That's
perfectly.
So, welcome. I was asked to have a short talk about the terminology of smart textiles. To start with the presentation, just a few key figures about the German Institute for Textile and Fiber Research in Denkendorf. We are Europe's largest textile research institution, and we reach in the last year roughly 1,500 partners. 84% of them are SMEs, and inside the system says my speech quality is low. Do you hear me?
We can hear well. You just please remove the box and you can continue. Thank you.
Okay. So, inside this institute, I'm responsible, as you said, for the Technology Center of Smart Living Textiles, and inside there is the point we talk about, the smart textiles. The smart textiles is a word which is used in very different ways, and there's also a lot of complications in it. And also in the standards, it becomes very important to have a clear definition of the word. The product passport is mentioned. That's one of the points where it's important. The other thing is for sure the recycling. There are upcoming standards for recycling textiles and also smart textiles, and therefore I want to give in the next few minutes some details to the standardization of smart textiles. So whenever we want to standardize, there are different standards all over the world, but I want to focus today on a technical report for the smart living, for the smart textiles that is used in Europe. They're still there, okay. And sorry, I lost my screen.
We still see it.
I see all the names and all the pictures, sorry. Do I go back? Ansicht.
Vielleicht mit Alt-Tab, genau die verschiedenen, so geht's auch.
Now it's back. I'm sorry about this. As I mentioned, the technical report for textiles and textile products, and there you expect to find a definition. And when you look to that, of course, there is a definition for smart textile product, but there's also the same definition for intelligent textile product and for interactive textile product. These are all the same definition, and the definition is functional textile product which interacts with the environment or responds or adapts to change in the environment. So that's the definition that's used in Europe for smart textiles. And out of this, it's even a little bit more complicated, because you see a note that the smart textiles can either be smart textile products or smart textile systems. And what's all about this, I get a little bit later on in my talk about. But first, when we go to the textile product, where you see the division right here, you first have to know what a textile product is. A textile product, in terms of standards, are a product in principle made of fibers and yarns, and it can be a product itself, or can be in any stage in the textile chain. But and then the other thing is the chain, the interaction with the environment. And in the standard, there are the stimulus and the most recent stimulus and responses mentioned, so that a smart textile can either stimulate it by optical, mechanical, chemical, electrical, thermal, or magnetic stimuluses, and can respond also in the same ways. And within this table, you can see the different products. So fine, so that's a first way to describe a smart textile, but it's a little bit more complicated. And to understand this better, we must know a little bit more about the structure of the standardization. That's the example for Germany. We have a national level, and in the national level, we have on the one hand side the DIN, and on the other hand side the DKE. Both work together in the terms of smart textiles driven by the DIN. And the next level, the European level, is addressed differently to the SEN and to the SEN-elect. And that's the reason for the two drivers in Germany. And above that, or compared to that, is also the international level. And as you all know, not all standards necessarily had to be European and international, and international is not necessary to be European. But there are the ISO and the IEC, and the reason for this is this column is done or handles with all standards, also the textile standards, but not with the electric. This one, all the electrical and electronic are handled in this column. And so somewhere with a product like smart textiles, you have to find a way in between. And it's even a little bit more complicated when we are in the column of ISO and SEN. We have the TCs that looks to smart textile and e-textiles. And please don't start a discussion how big is the shared position between smart textile and e-textile. That's just a symbol in here. But when we do about the standardization, it's in this area. And when we look to the international level, the IEC, they start to look to this topic with wearable and e-textiles. And when it comes to a joint standard from IEC and ISO, it's just this small overlap from wearable, e-textiles, and smart textiles. Nevertheless, it can widen up, but the standards start with different foci, and that's always a little bit tricky in the termination. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are also the smart textile systems. The system is basically composed of actors and sensors, and an information device, and to check if a product is a system or a product. In the standard, there are these flowcharts where you can check what your product is. And when we look a little bit deeper, I want to focus on these 4 points. These are placed in this table, and smart textiles can be categorized with this table, without communication functions, with communication functions, and without energy function, and with energy function. That for the first time looks a little bit confusing, but I want to give some examples. They are also mentioned in the standard. And when we look to the non-E, non-Com products, as a sample, there is, for example, a garment equipped with shape memory or face changing material, or a simple LED curtain. Both samples have no internal energy supply, so the first sample don't need any energy to work out, and then the curtain typically is supported from outside, and there is no communication with the environment. So that's the first class of the smart textile systems. The second one, with the energy function, the samples are a backpack with a battery connected to a photocell, or a shoe with a battery connected to an electromechanical transducer. In this case, all these smart textile systems have an internal energy battery and an external energy source, but have both no communication with the environment. To be follow the other two, the non-E and Com smart textile systems. Examples would be breathing samples in a hospital, where the mechanical movement of the patient created the signal, or a baby pajama dyed with thermochromic pigments to indicating the temperature of the body. There is no internal energy, also the external energy source is present, but these products communicate with the environment. And the last group, and that's typical where most have in mind when we talk about smart textiles, have energy functions and communication functions. Examples would be sensing and wearing and warning systems for chemical plant workers, or thermal detectors in firefighters' jackets. There are integrated batteries that operate the sensors, and they actively communicate with the external environment. So with these 4 categories, we are now able to characterize all the smart textiles in different categories. And as you can see, this is also a pretty nice way to divide smart textiles, for example, for the recycling, but also for other handling of smart textiles. When you want to have a more detailed overlook, about the smart textile standards. There's a quite nice interactive page driven by the dean on their page, where there is also the terminology, but all the other standard that deals somewhere with smart textiles. So everyone who wants to dig deeper inside the standardization of smart textile, I recommend strongly this interactive page. And another point, but this is because it's founded by the German government, just for German SMEs. When you want to have more help with smart textiles, with different questions about nearshoring or lines to smart home, or also want to have new ideas driven by trend radars, you can contact us, because we have a funded project in the institute where SMEs can be helped with the first steps in these fields. So thank you very much. I'm sorry that I lost my page, and I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much again, Christoph. Nice to have you here, and it's a very good example to see how to merge digital components in the more traditional industry, for instance, textile, but of course it is taking place also in many other sectors. And with the integration of digital components, it becomes even more important, especially to protect data, to protect consumers and solutions from the digital standpoint. So it's also a very good transition now to talk about cybersecurity, and we have our next speaker, Patricia Shield. She's the CEO and co-founder of CyberSet Labs, and she will be deep diving in the topic of cybersecurity and how to protect all the digital components of also digital solution, but also products. So the floor is yours, and thank you again.
Thank you, Gabriele. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CyberSet Labs. We're a cybersecurity company, and we focus on cyber resilience and specific regulations in terms of the CRA and NIS2, and we'll go into that in the presentation. The presentation is really focused on practical advice for any company that is going through a digital transformation. And what are the really important things to consider? Because if you haven't gone through your digital transformation yet, you're actually in a really good position to do things in a certain way that could save your business time and money, and also protect your business very well. So I'd like to kind of focus a little bit on some of the key concepts in cybersecurity and actually how they're changing. So today, cybersecurity is changing a lot. And really, we're changing from a very reactive, preventative way of dealing with cyber to a much more cyber resilience mindset. So in the digital era, with everything being digitized so much, all of our daily lives, everything we do, our banking, our grocery shopping, our interactions socially, everything we do is online. And because everything is online, the risks have increased. And we, as a society, we're quite exposed. And as a bloc, as an EU bloc, we're also quite exposed, because there are criminal groups, nation states, who try and take advantage of the weakness in our system. And there are a lot of weaknesses. And that is why we've changed from the mindset of cybersecurity to cyber resilience. So it's not if it will happen, it's when it happens, how resilient are you to actually resist against a sustained cyber attack. And for a small business, it can be catastrophic. It can actually put you out of business. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how long could my critical systems be down, and how long could I survive without those critical systems? So if you look at a recent cyber attack in the UK, it was Jaguar or Land Rover, and it was in the news, and they were all their operational technology was taken down because they're a factory. They have a production line and they make cars. So all of their production stopped. They couldn't make cars, and they couldn't buy anything from their supply chain. So all of their supply chain were small companies supplying them with parts and with services. So literally the company came to a standstill, and they were a month out of operation. And all of their supply chain, all of these small businesses that depended on them, also had very significant lapses in revenue coming in. And the UK government had to actually step in and bail them out, essentially. We also saw recently with the airports, so a lot of the European airports were attacked via a piece of software that works with the hardware to check people in at the boarding gates. And there was attack, and all of the airports that used that specific software couldn't check people in, which resulted in huge queues, operational chaos. People had to use a manual mechanism to check the people in, and they also had to, cancel a lot of flights. It cost in excess of 150 million, that one attack. So the message is to ensure that your business is ready if you have an attack, not to do all the preventative stuff is all important, but you have to be prepared. So you have to be able to withstand and recover quickly. And that means there are certain things you need to put in place, your recovery plan, your data recovery plan, and also your business continuity plan. And you have to practice these. So it's all about practice. It's like a fire drill for your business. So let me move on to the next slide. If I can. The second concept that is really important to talk to you about today is actually building security in from the start. So a security by design principle. Traditionally, security has been left to the end. So if you're creating a product or developing software or building a factory, you go ahead and build it, and then you go, oh, okay, now we put the security in. But if you were building a house, you would always plan the security in the plans of the house. So you wouldn't build a house and say, oh, now we'll put the locks on the doors and the special, alarm system in. You would make sure that that was part of your plan in the first place. So this is we need to make sure that people understand that actually anything in your business, you have to consider the security of. So always think about it when you're making decisions, always consider security at that stage. So particularly when you're developing products, when you're developing new systems or new processes, think about how does this affect my cyber resilience by putting this new process in place, and how does this affect the overall security of, maybe it's a network, maybe it's a new system that you're putting in place for customers, but make sure that you always upfront think about the security and how it's going to affect security. There is a statistic that if you release a product to the market and it has a vulnerability that you have to fix while the product's on the market, it costs 75% more to fix the vulnerability in that situation than it does in the design or the development phase. So there is a massive cost saving to thinking about security in the design phase. Also, there's a lot of basic things that you can put into your any system, any process, any product that you're building. Things like weak passwords and the least privilege. So if somebody doesn't need a certain privilege level on their admin, they don't need an admin account, for instance, to do their job, you don't need to give them that level of access. So there's really simple things that we can do that don't cost a lot of money, to implement. And we're not doing them, because what we see is that there are weak passwords. People aren't using multi-factor authentication, which really helps secure your business. And all of those things together provide a depth to your security. So an attacker will try and get through all of the defenses before they get to something that they want to extract, so like data. So you need to make sure that you build up those defenses, so you make it more difficult for the attacker to get to them. Training and awareness is another thing. So making sure that all of your staff have the awareness and the training to be able to make the right decisions when, for instance, they get a phishing email that are becoming a lot more sophisticated these days. Very simple things like just stop, think when you get a phishing email, but also if you're at all concerned that it hasn't come from the person that you believe it has, it could be an impersonating email, somebody trying to impersonate your boss and trying to get you to do something like transfer money. Always just call the person and say, did you send me this email? So there's really, really simple things you can put in place that cost very, very little, but actually are very, very protective. And really changing the mindset about cybersecurity. So making it everybody's responsibility instead of the IT person or the cyber person. It has to be a shared responsibility across the business for it to work. There are two pieces of legislation, EU legislation, that I want to talk to you about today. And the first one is the NIS2 directive, which updates a previous directive, which was NIS1. And really this focuses on increasing or raising the level of cybersecurity across our essential important services. So all of the critical services to our economies and our societies. So they would be things like energy, hospitals, healthcare, utilities, transport. So all of these things that run our societies and help our societies, economies, and what we need as individuals to live. We have to protect those critical industries. And at the moment, we're quite exposed from a European standpoint, because we have a security debt to pay, because we haven't been doing it up to now. So now we have to really, really ramp it up. So like healthcare is a major area where cyber attacks happen an awful lot. And the result of that is that perhaps the hospitals have to cancel surgeries or cancer treatments because they can't operate, because they don't have the systems in place to operate. And that's really serious, because that affects patients directly and it affects lives. So what are we doing about that? Well, the NIS2 directive says companies that are in this critical and important services sectors have to do better cybersecurity. They need to do risk management. They need to improve their resilience so that when an attack happens, they can have a way of continuing with the services. And they need to also look at their supply chains, because more often than not, an attack starts in a small business that is supplying to a critical industry. So the attacker will be essentially look for the low-hanging fruit, look for the easiest route in. And what they will do is they will see a small company that's supplying to a hospital, and they will go in that way, or an energy company, or any of those critical systems. So it's really important for the supply chain. So if you're a supplier to a critical or important entity, you also have obligations under this directive. And the critical entities and the important entities will be looking at their supply chain and auditing them and looking for them to do their risk management. So you might be familiar with receiving a very big, long Excel spreadsheet with 300 questions and you have to respond to them. That's third-party risk management. Hopefully we can do it better in the future than making businesses fill out 300 questions in a spreadsheet. But it essentially, that's why we need to mature these organizations so that they can use a better system, because for an SME to fill in that spreadsheet is a lot of work. So we need to be more smart about how we do things. And then the last thing to mention about NIS2 is that leadership is liable. So it's pushing the responsibility back up to the board level executives so that they take cybersecurity seriously and so that they ensure that the measures are in place to protect their critical businesses. So the Cyber Resilience Act is a very, very important piece of legislation that came in December 2024. So it's already in force. It has a 3-year transition period, but it's really, really important because not enough people are talking about it. Not enough people know about it. I'm very passionate about it because my company concentrates a lot on the Cyber Resilience Act. And essentially, the Cyber Resilience Act is all about digital products. So any product with digital elements that has a network connection or a connection to another device and is made available on the EU market will need to conform to this new legislation. And this as well is about regulating digital products, because today digital products can be sold on the market with zero cybersecurity. And what happens is the consumer buys the product, plugs it in, and assumes that it's safe, but it normally is not safe. Things like weak passwords and serious vulnerabilities can be found in a lot of digital products that we use in our homes and our businesses, and indeed in our industries, which is really important because factories, manufacturing, all of these industries that are using these digital products have very vulnerable systems because there are major vulnerabilities in all of these products. And so this regulation is to address that. So essentially, any digital product, and I was listening to some of the earlier presentations, and some of those products will be in scope for this legislation. Any digital product, there are a few exceptions, but mainly it's all digital products, will have to get the CE mark for cybersecurity. So we all know the CE mark is very recognizable on toasters and washing machines. Now all digital products will need to get the CE mark, including software for cybersecurity. So it's hardware or software or a mixture of both. And it's quite a broad legislation. It will come into full applicable effect on December 2027. And then there are some obligations that start in September 2026, and that is the vulnerability handling and reporting. So you will need to monitor your product as well while it's on the market, and if there are serious vulnerabilities or indeed an incident with your product, you'll need to report those to your national CSIRT, so your national body, and to the European body, which is ENISA. So that's actually coming in earlier than the December 2027 date. But again, it's about security by design and security by default. It's trying to get people to develop their products with security from the outset so that the product inherits all of that security, has the right security features and the right security controls. So finally, if you go away with any messages today, these would be the messages. So how long can your business survive if a critical system goes down? And if a critical system goes down, do you have the measures in place to return to operation in this time frame? Do you have the money in the bank to be able to have that downtime? So if it's 3 days, if it's 6 days, if it's 1 week. Practice your response plans like a fire drill. We have seen many businesses go through a ransomware attack or a malware attack, and everybody is running around, nobody knows what to do. You need to practice your response plan. That's very important. And then make security a core consideration in everything you do in your business. So every time you make a decision, say, what about the security? What about the security? Is there any bad things going to happen because we make this decision? Understand the key regulations that might affect your business and start early. even if it says December 2027, it will come around like that. It will be upon you like that. So look at those two legislations I mentioned, NIS2 and the Cyber Resilience Act, and see if you're in scope for any of those, and change the cybersecurity mindset. You know, think about cyber resilience instead of cybersecurity. Think about how are we going to respond? How are we going to be resilient to attack, rather than, you know, I need to do all these controls. So more responsive than preventative. And also everybody is responsible. Everybody has a key part to play. Thank you, and I hope that was interesting and that it provoked some thoughts.
Definitely, and thank you very much, Patricia, for the very nice presentation. I think you captured all the challenges and the risks, especially on the cybersecurity side. You also provided very actionable and clear points for the audience to proceed. Before the next presentation, I will just give the floor to Sven. I think he raised his hand. Please be brief because we need to continue to the next section.
Oh, absolutely, I will. Thank you. Patricia, just a quick question concerning the CE mark you mentioned for cyber resilience. Is that something the manufacturer can do at his own responsibility, like in medical devices for certain class, or does it always need something like a notified body for that?
It depends on what product category you're in. So there's 4 product categories. 90% of the products will be in the default category, and you will be able to do a self-assessment in that category. And then there's more risky categories. So in the critical category, you will have products like smart meter gateways, which obviously are very critical because if there's a cyber attack on them, could take out a whole energy grid. And then we have important class 1 and class 2. But the regulation has been left open so that the Commission can move products up the categories. So it's going to be a very complex regulation, and it's going to be very difficult for product manufacturers. A lot of them are going to be SMEs as well. So they've left it so that the majority will be self-assessment, but in the future we can see products going into the more critical categories. If you're in those critical categories, you will need to go to a conformity assessment body and get a third-party assessment of your product in a lab. There are harmonized standards being developed right now by Chenlec and ETSI. There's 41 standards, and they cover the horizontal. There's 15 horizontal standards to cover like the Annex 1 essential requirements, essentially. And then there are vertical standards in the product categories. So operational technology is one of the groups of vertical standards. And if you conform to some of those harmonized standards, you will get a presumption of conformity in class 1. And you may be able to do a self-assessment for that. So it's kind of complex, but happy to talk to you afterwards about it if you have any more questions.
Yeah, and thanks
for the audience as well. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I think our speakers can stick around for a few minutes, so feel free to use the chat, and we will be happy to reply there. Now, last but not least, we have the presentation on artificial intelligence. So I will right away give the floor to Dr. Alexander Polheim.
Thank you for the introduction. I hope everybody can see my slides.
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. My name is Alexander Polheim. I'm a project manager at the WFK Institute, and I would like to explain you not how artificial intelligence or AI works, but I rather tell you something about the possibility application of AIs in laundries. First, few words about the Institute. We are a research institute for laundry techniques in Krefeld, Germany. Our main activities are research. In addition to research, we have seminars and workshops. We have a testing institute that's testing detergents, cleaning agents, and machines. And as a further assessment, we test hygiene status in laundries and issue a certificate if they pass the tests. Furthermore, we have a test material institute which provides test materials which we need for the test and the research. Here is an overview of companies we work with or member of our institute. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial neural networks are computer programs inspired how the human brain works. They consist of many connected neurons that receive and process and pass on signals. Each neuron takes weighted inputs and does simple calculation. The complexity of the network depends on its structure, its number of layers, neurons, connections. Through training, the network learns to connect input data with output data. There are three main types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. In supervised learning, the system is trained with input data and correct answers. It learns by comparing its predictions to correct results and adjusts itself until it can make accurate precisions. In under-supervised learning, only input data is given. There are no correct answers. The system tries to find hidden patterns, structures, or groups with the data by itself, such as clustering similar items together. Reinforcement learning works differently. Here, the system learns by interacting with an environment. It makes decisions, receives feedback in form from rewards or penalties, and learns which action leads to the best results. Together, these three methods allow the machine to learn from data, adapt to new situation, and improve their performance over the time. On the pictures, you can show an intelligent adaptive laundry sorting machine that automatically recognizes and categorizes using a camera, artificial neural networks, and human feedback on continuous improves itself. Very important for the laundry is robotics and automatization. Robots is crucial for the automation of industrial process. However, robots application pose a particular challenge for textiles. Textiles behave unpracticably, which is why AI systems are necessary. For example, screws always have the same sides, which is why robotic application works well here. Textiles have a greater manufacture tolerance in the production process and change the size and color over their lifetime to the washing and drying process. In addition, textiles are immutable, slip off, and lie differently. Therefore, self-learning systems are necessary. An example for robotics application are textile folding systems. Textile folding systems fold, sort, and stack textiles. They're using AI-based calculation. The system determines the optimal gripping point and executes the most efficient movement in real time. This works especially well with towels and bed sheets. Another example for robotics in laundries is sorting of dirty laundry. The sorting of dirty laundry is performed through a camera-based detection system that identifies individual textile pieces before processing. Then you have 4 steps to prevent the robotic arm separates the textiles, which are then scanned for photo classification. The unwanted materials, you see it on the pictures, for example, a pen from entering in the washing process are detected by X-ray imaging. Silence detection, you use it for age and shape detection. For all AL-based textiles identification, the system is trained with image or color data or the automatically detection different types of textiles and materials. The system also includes automatic control of the drop chute, ensuring that textiles are directly to the correct process line. In addition, the staff have no contact with the dirty and contaminated items, which causes a significant physical and psychological strain. I like to show how you can LA use for efficient logistic and supply chains laundries. In the field of textile service, the coordination of textiles, collection, cleaning, and delivery is essential. The condition of machine have been monitored by sensors. By combining of historical and operational data with real-time traffic information, AI algorithm can calculate the most efficient delivery routes for transport, vehicles, and cars. This approach leads to a significant reduction of delivery times, fuel consumption, and associated emissions. And they can be used for quality control. Quality control system use AI-based image analysis to automatically inspect textiles for potential defects. AI algorithm analyze them image in real time to detect irregularities such as hole or stains. Defected tiles are automatically sorted out. Flowers textile are automatically folded and stacked, ready for the packing and further processing. For example, hole scanner are used in laundry manuals. Another AI application could be error management function. To the end, the operating parameters are monitored. The AI automatically detects deviations that leads to faulty cleaning or process steps. When such deviations are identified, the system alerts the operator and suggests trigger correct actions to prevent potential damage to the textiles. Another possible AI application could be predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance is the concept of monitoring the condition of machine in real time in order to perform maintenance only when it is actually needed. That is before a failure occurs, but not earlier than necessary. Sensors continuously measure the parameters such as temperature, vibration, power consumption. AI recognize patterns in the data and can directly early signs of possible malfunction before they happened. With this information, maintenance work can be planned and carried out at the right time. It not only helps prevent unacceptable breakdowns, but also extended the service life to the machines and reduce operating costs. Now I want to show an example from our research. In order to avoid customer complaints to the mildew stands, the textile often overdried. This overdrying caused unnecessary energy cost and textile damage to the overheating. On this background, we conduct a research project to control the drying process by recording the residual textile moisture by using AI-based audio analysis. The idea is that stamped textiles are heavier to the water they absorb it and therefore make different noise depends on the moisture when they are falling or rolling in the dryer. We integrated an audio system into a tumbler. The system records the rolling and falling structures of textiles which are used for useful signals. From this audio signals, the system extracts amplitudes and frequencies using a Fourier transformation. Then the features are used to train an artificial neural network with data from the textiles that have known rolling and falling behavior. During the operation, the artificial neural network can determine the moisture based on the measured audio signal. On the slide, you can see the integrated audio system. This system records the useful signal by movement laundry using the microphones sounds. At the same time, the background noise from the machine, for example, using from an airborne microphone and corrected the data. A small computer, in this case a Raspberry Pi, was built into the tumbler. The falling and rolling sounds are recorded with the microphone and displayed in a three-dimensional image. You can see of the left side. Here you see the amplitude depends of the dry time and the frequency. And with this input, this image are analyzed by using the artificial neural network. Here you can see the results. The artificial neural network continuously determines the moisture level of the laundry. The figures shows the measured moistures and the predicted moisture from the AI, and this fits good together. You have an agreement from 85 to 80% of all cases. On the left side, you can see that from the AA, predict moisture depending on the time. Based on this information, the system automatically can adjust process parameters such as drying time, hot air temperature, or the drum movement. This helps to optimize the drying process, reduce heat energy consumption, and minimize textile damage. In this way, AI and sound analysis make laundry process smarter. This was one example to use AI in the laundry in a new way. When you have interest in other of our projects, you found on this homepage the activities, or you can contact me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for your very nice presentation. I think we all see a clear example on how to integrate AI, especially in the industrial setting. Where maybe in the past these processes were not supported by digital technology. So thank you again for the very good example. And now this section we will talk in another integration actually in the industrial setting, but mostly on the supporting part. So as you are perfectly aware, the digital product passport will be rolling out soon. So we have today with us now Thomas Knote, and he's the chair of the Sensenelec JTC, working on the standard supporting the digital product passport. So I will leave the floor to him to set the stage for our panel discussion later. And we can see the presentation, and thank you again for joining us today.
Hello, here's Thomas Knote. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now perfectly.
See my screen as well?
We see your screen, but not the presentation.
Not the presentation. Is it now the right one?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for the delay. So thanks a lot for the introduction to Gabriele. Yes, I'm acting in one of my full-time jobs as co-chair or chair of Sensenelec JTC 24 for the Digital Product Passport Framework and System. And in my other full-time job, I'm head of department at Fraunhofer Institute for Production System and Design Technology for making research on that. And at the same time, we are performing the implementation of DPPs in the industry. So now coming to the issue behind, because the European DPP is at least an invention which is exceptional, because most of the IT inventions comes from Palo Alto and now on China. But DPP was invented by EU. So we should be proud of that. Anyhow, it is the instrument or one of the key instruments for supporting the ESPR. This is the eco-design sustainable product regulation, and in order to implement our Green Industrial Deal. You can see here the timeline. The first DPPs will come for the battery, but as well for all the others, as we heard today, for instance, for textiles, We had a presentation today, but as well furniture and even for entire vehicles. And of course, our job is to develop the standards for that. But first, I would like to take you with me what is behind these EU DPP and how is this working. And there's a small theoretical input because the DPP consists on two sides. One is the system and the other is the data. And the system is already quite complex because this is containing three items. One is a distributed DPP system services with the data. Means every, so to speak, economic operator, this is a manufacturer, an OEM, but as well an importer or distributor, held the data of the product on its own. Yeah, with different technologies, how to deal with that. Then we have the central services from the European Commission, where the major aspect is, so to speak, a registry. In this registry, there are only 4 items. This is a product ID. This is the manufacturer, or let me say the economic operator ID. This is the facility ID where the product was produced, and the registry ID, which is only known by the, so to speak, economic operator and the European Commission. And in the case when an economic operator disappears, we have at least backup services so that a product can be achieved, and especially the passport can be selected even when the economic operator disappears. This is the third part. And all of them have to be connected, and this is at least explaining the DPP system for Europe. And this is in the scope of the CENELEC JTC 24 for the digital passport framework and system. And next to that, there are the data. And based on this system, you can have access via, for instance, a data carrier here, as mentioned as a QR code, coming to the data. And there are mandatory data, which are defined by product group specific standards or even delegated acts. And Commission has agreed to have as well voluntary data. And this is very much important from several perspectives. One is, you can imagine if you have an EV car and the battery is really expensive, the most valuable part then, so to speak, between 10,000 to 20,000 euro, then it's very important to know what's happened with that. From several perspectives. One is, of course, how's about the performance today when you imagine if you sell the car to someone else. This is at least the issue of state of health. So this means the data is not just coming from the product design and the product supply chain as well, so to speak, coming from dynamic data, coming from the use of the product. And so you have as well the opportunity for voluntary data, for instance, benchmarks and so on. And the battery is at least the first one who enters into the regulation. So from February 2027, sorry, where every battery which follows some conditions has to have a battery passport. And how this can look like, you can see this here as an example coming from the Battery Pass project. Now looking why it's so sensitive and why it's so electrifying a lot of people. On the one hand, this is part of the regulation, as I mentioned already, because it is one of the key instruments for implementing the Green Industrial Deal. Currently in European Commission, there are 5 different directorates which are involved into the DPP and DPP standardization. Yeah? So you can imagine there's a lot of issues forth and back. On the other hand, the industry is quite interested into that. So from the one hand, it's about the issue of controlling and having the data management along the value chain. So it's an instrument for digitalization of entire value chains in Europe and even outside. On the other hand, it is a very good new instrument for binding to the customer, yeah, because with this DPP, as I mentioned, we have the, so to speak, dynamic data. The companies, the manufacturers, knows what's happened with the products after it's sold. And this is really interesting for marketing, but as well for service parts and so on. And last but not least, and we had mentioned this and heard this today already, the digital industry is quite keen. Yeah? So I would say every second week I get a question from a technology provider. Oh, how my technology can be standardized. So in the beginning, when we started 6 years ago, with all these things, for instance, blockchain enthusiasts came to us and say, yes, every DPP needs blockchain technology. And so there are a lot of others as well. So, but at the end, everyone is at least connected first to the issue of circularity, because it's so super important. You can imagine why the batteries is at least the first one, because most of the material in the battery comes outside from Europe. So if we would have impact in industry in Europe, we need to have them in a circular way. Yeah, and this is, so from that perspective, a very good idea of European Commission to start with that. And so we were the first ones to, let me say, have to elaborate standards for the system. But now we have really a global movement, global alignment. So I stopped to count when I reached more than 30 different standardization activities globally. Yeah? So that's a big, big issue today. On the other hand, it's a very, very tough timeline. I know this is here about SME-based standardization, but you see, we have the battery regulation entered into the force in August 2023. And this means after 42 months, everything has to be implemented. So this is the issue why we have to start in 2027. On the other hand, the ESPR is as well into force now. And this is now the part where we started with standardization. This means we had the kickoff in at least January 2024. And we have to deliver the standards in at least end of 2025. All of you knows, or who knows about standardization, this is like go over water. Yeah? Having more or less 2 years in total for creating standards and bring them into a situation that can be harmonized. So, but anyhow, I will give you some ideas where we are. You see here the inquiry process where we are today. So in total, we have to fulfill the objectives of the standardization request for harmonized standards according to the Eco-Design Directive or regulation, and other regulations as well, like the battery regulation. We are more than 400 experts coming from 20 member states and plus Switzerland, UK, Norway. And of course, we have our deadline. Now coming to the technical standards. What we are doing with the technical standard, what is the core or the scope of the system? So first of all, there is the module 1 and 2 about unique identifiers and data carriers. And unique identifiers, we had listened to a presentation today, and I didn't mention beforehand, the major objective of those standards is inclusivity. This means we are not following the typical Highlander principle that just one will survive. This means for unique identifiers, we define the in our specifications the requirements for eligible standards for unique identifiers in order to capture as much as possible. And we demonstrated how the different schemes can work to each other. The same is for data carriers, like the QR code, but as well all the modern ones like NFC and so on. And even here we are foreseeing new ones as well. Yeah. So next one is very important. We had this issue with cyber resilience, is about access rights management, information system security, which is very important, you can imagine. The next one is everything about interoperability of the data exchange coming from, for instance, for the API for the DPP lifecycle management and searchability, because you as a consumer should be able to search through different DPPs, which can be on several levels. So this can be on model level, means the product type, on batch side, but even on item level. Yeah? And you can, as a consumer, see what's happened with this product. We have the issue of data storage and archiving. As I mentioned, the issue for the backup service, and last but not least, all the issue to check if the data is the right data. Yeah? If there is not any fraud and tamper data. So this is just to give you the idea what's behind our standards. And you see here in blue are all the standards who went already through the balloting or the voting of the national standardization bodies, and we got more than 6,000 feedback comments, which now are under the comment resolution process until end of this year. And we are waiting for the comments and the voting of the 2 security standards, modules 3 and 7. So, and now coming what's behind this kind of standards for small and medium-sized business. And I start with an example from a sector which was forgotten when we started with DPP. This is the craft workers. And it's quite curious because the craftsmen are the one who are the last on a product and are the first on a product back when something is changing. And they were purely forgotten. Now we are working on different projects, how to deal with that, because there is a lot of benefit. Because when there is a product and you have a product passport, then you see all the issues for interoperability of integration here with the example of an electrical device. We have all the conformity documents. We have the sustainability aspects, which is very much important for companies who would like to take them for the reuse. The next one is about installation, so that we have standards for the integration planning. And last but not least, the maintenance issues, which is very important. Which kind of spare part we can have available for improving instead of just exchanging entire products. So, and even I guess, even I come from Germany, and our Kraftwerks business is quite crucial today because we do not get the craft workers. But everyone here in Germany knows this situation. Your electrician, for instance, who has to do something with your electric devices or your installation at home, come open the connecting box and see, oh, there's something wrong and I do not have the spare parts for that. And so they have to go back, buy something and come back. And even more, for this and this activities, I need other tools. And I had exactly this situation 2 weeks ago in my house. And by having a DPP, it can be run completely differently. This means in beforehand, when having a digital product passport of your house, the electrician can already see, this is this part which is always problematic. I just take the right spare part with me already. And here, normally, we would exchange entire boxes. We have an idea just to take a spare part or to make a repair. So this means here we can do a lot for several things, for having this work more economically available and doing something for circular business. And of course, we are going now already in the next stage for digital product passports for craft workers. And this is about the issue of taking into account already existing installations. So, and what would like to be very interesting, if we have an automated generation of DPP data coming from existing house electricity. Because this would be really interesting, because when we start just today with that, with new houses, then the effect come maybe in 10 to 20 years when there is a first renovation or modernization. It would be much more easy, much more interesting to just scan by a smartphone, whatever, the connection box, and by using some AI technologies to generate the data for the house. And by the way, this is not completely future. We had already this September a positive proof of concept of that. And you can imagine, only in Germany, we have something like 16 million buildings, which needs at least renovation for having more energy efficiency. What about the impact? And of course, most of the work for doing all these energy efficiency renovation has to be done by SMEs. And here you can see what is the potential benefit of DPP and even research for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Very interesting presentation, and the topic is, of course, very relevant to be discussed. I saw also a few questions in the Q&A section, so please feel free to address them later. And thank you very much again. So now I will, following this very nice introduction to the DPP, I would also like to complement this discussion with our next speakers.
Gabriele, I do not see any comment in the chat.
You need to go to more with a few dots, and then there is a Q&A, and they are directed there.
And more dots. I do not see, so need help.
The German is for that is FNA, Fragen und Antworten.
Okay. Now I see FNA. Okay. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
And unfortunately, Mr. Pirca Frosti will not be here today, but I'm joined by Belen Suarez Lopez and David Dolkomut. And I would like to just jump into this panel discussion. So first of all, I would like to address Belen. She's a standardization expert in several committees at both Sensenelec and ISO level, and she's also the CEO of Go to Innovation. So given her background, I would like to start with her asking, why do you think standards are fundamental to support and drive innovation, as we are talking about specifically SME digitalization?
Thank you very much for the question and for the invitation and having me today. It's a very, very big question, difficult to reply in few words. But if we are speaking in terms of the DPP, for sure, now standards are quite critical. But if you are asking from the SME viewpoint, let me ask you, what kind of SME we have in mind? Okay, it's the SME that are economic operators of the DPP system, are SMEs that are thinking to be service providers for these economic operators to implement the DPP system. If we think on innovation, I think that the second cluster could be more relevant, because at the end of the day, the DPP will significant big disruption on the global value chains, not only at the European value chains. Fully agree with Thomas. It is a European Union project, not a US project, not a Chinese project. So it is a good time to defend the European, let's say, leadership in some areas. And for those service providers, I think that they are in mind on the European Commission management. The most important is if the DPP will allow the single market multiples, let's say, actors developing solutions in terms of service providers, in terms of how we can avoid the DPP will only be managed by a small number of companies. So, and for those, let's say, for those SMEs, we should keep in mind what are the main obstacles they are facing. So they have to reduce risk, obviously, because, not only technological risk, also I will set market acceptance risks because they are looking forward to enter solutions in the market. So they are looking for customers. So it is the type of standards or the type of problem they should solve. Also, they need to reduce the cost of innovation. So clearly, the use of a standard is quite critical for them to avoid experiments so much and less focus on exploitation of the technology or the solution they are creating. They need a standard to accelerate the market adoption and even scalability in the market. But the most important, they need a standard to build trust and customer confidence. So it is absolutely critical. And interoperability, we are mentioned before. Interoperability, we are mentioned before. Cybersecurity issues, we are mentioned, a key, let's say, a set of features their solution should have to comply with regulation and with the requirements the new DPP Act will ask them for comply. But for sure, one of them is to be feasible also financially. So they need to think also on the business model. I'm expert on innovation, not only on several verticals, not only on blockchain, not only on the DPP, but I come from the business side. And at the end of the day, they should provide profitable solutions. And it is something that the standards that help them to navigate in this complexity for sure will be very helpful despite the sector, and also assuming the level of digitalization, automatization of their processes are or not today in their daily activities.
Thank you very much. And also I would like to switch to David Dohumut. He's Head of Partnership and Business Development at Trace System, an SME, a digital SME working on DPP solutions. So we would like to hear from you some practical examples. How could you please share some concrete examples from your background?
Yeah, so practical wise, so we've done a pilot for the end of the life cycle of batteries. So we've done also textiles, but we kind of got more into batteries recently. And when we did that, we used blockchain technology, and we involved a battery manufacturer from Germany, a battery collector from Norway, and a secondary marketplace, but also who played recycler in our pilot from Sweden. So it was also to show how the battery moves between borders. So the moment that it gets manufactured, and then as it was mentioned, I believe by Thomas, there's different providers, right? So we used the QR code in this case, but for phase 2, we know that the volume, when there's a lot of volume, eventually you need something that's gonna grab more batteries at once, or textiles at once, or you need RFID or any other future, either current or future technology better than RFID for the next phases. Because when it comes into force, it's nice to do things pilot-wise, keeping it safe, doing something easy using using QR codes, but in reality, when the volume starts kicking in the market, it's not feasible to scan one by one. At least that's what we were told by various people in different, even from the warehouse business as well. It's just unfeasible, and so we know that this is something for a later phase. When it comes to the collector from Norway, one thing that the collectors, they like to know is when they scan, and that was also mentioned by Thomas, is that there's different levels of data that goes in the hands of different people. And collectors, they like to know what is the composition of the battery as they collect stuff, right? For security purposes, you know, like for leakages and other stuff like that. Also, there are legislations where when a battery is being transported, it has to be in a very specific box, specific size, and things like that. So all of these things, they matter when the batteries will start traveling. And also at the end of the life cycle, the people that really will benefit a lot of it. And I saw a lot of startups which are getting traction and getting money when it comes to that, is these secondary marketplace places for batteries. And the reason for that is that the EU, obviously, they care about the circular economy, and that's why, as was mentioned by Belen and Thomas, is that this is an EU project. So yes, there's a lot of people involved as value chains and supply chains come beyond the borders, but at the end of the life cycle, when they test these battery cells and modules, when they put them back, whatever is still good to be reused, it does give a second life to these batteries. So the circularity is actually a really good thing, and there is a lot of interest in that as well. And now with AI being integrated into many things these days, the analytics of the data for the manufacturer, right? Knowing where their batteries went, where where are they today, how they were disposed of. This is also really good for like ESG reports and various other things, which also involve later banks, for example, right? But when companies, they want to get a credit for new facility, new machinery, and things like that, all of this data long term is going to be very valuable to be spread and used in various ways with various institutions.
Thank you very much. Fully agree. And also regarding the, especially the integration of technologies, would like to ask Belen, do you see that blockchain can be a good fit for the DPP? How it is also possible to integrate the different requirements through the use of such technologies, and also which are the efforts, and how can we support the efforts in the digitalization of these processes?
Thank you very much, Gabriele. Let's say that blockchain for sure should be a feature of the future DPP implementation, not only in the system. We need to think that the DPP is an idea that should be implemented for the long cycle of all products and services. So we can imagine not today when we start the implementation of the DPP, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years later, we can imagine the size of what the DPP could mean. And in that case, we are aware, not only us, the European Commission, standardization bodies, all the industry is aware that the DPP will depend on how secure and consistent is the exchange of data at the end of the day. So we need to think on integrity, we need to think on security, and we need to think on consistency. And do this in an efficient manner means that we need to integrate some technologies that are exactly designed and created for that purpose, for reduce the cost of verification, for the use of a smart contract in terms of security or service security attacks. For a lot of, let's say, arguments, blockchain in any moment should be part of the DPP on the system, on the backend services, or the service providers in any way. So I think that the best approach at this stage should be proactive, not only wait until we have the huge need in the market, and if possible, start with the standardization. It is something that for the first time, also outside of Europe, in that case, and in ISO TC 307, we have the US companies asking why we don't start to standardize from the international level the European DPP in blockchain. So I think that it's something we need to discuss also with maybe at the European level, if we will distribute or share this responsibility and this leadership outside of the European boundaries when we solve the, let's say, first stage of a standard we need to provide in terms of the DPP system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also for regarding more on the market side, as Trace System is an SME working in the field, how do you see also the DPP as a solution? How do you transform potentially these regulatory compliance in a potentially very good beneficial asset for the market and other companies?
Yeah, and that's what was mentioned just now, right? Is that one problem with a lot of companies is that when they look at DPPs, they just see legislation and they often wait last minute, and this is really bad. So and I try to counter that in many ways, try to convince them earlier, and some are already starting now, and I tried to a year in advance, so to get them on board. So some are interested, some rather wait some time. So the best way is to also integrate with other systems, so like other systems that they are using. So that kind of, through APIs, that's one thing that is anyways necessary. Another way, for example, when it comes to textiles, they care about their customers, right? So clothing brands is like, how do I engage with my customers? So the way to engage with your customers is using digital wardrobes and other stuff. I'm not saying we should create our own, although we have done so. But even integrating with there's a lot of digital wardrobes, and one thing that we know is people don't like change. So if they already put all their clothes in one app, they're probably not going to do it in another app. So it's very important to be able to connect to these. So then the data flows, and also it makes it easier to repair, to resell, and many other things. So there's a lot of opportunities there for a longer life cycle of the product, and people like to resell stuff, vintage stuff, and things like that. When it comes to batteries is not really something that involves a lot of B2C, right? So it's more of the data, right? How to capitalize on the data to be analyzed through artificial intelligence. And being a blockchain solution, the data is immutable, right? So it cannot be deleted or anything like that in a way at all. And so the AI agents could really analyze that stuff and get smarter and smarter as more data gets in there. So really giving more to the companies beyond just legislation is very important, and that's how you attract them to become long-term clients. But the first step is really getting them on board for the legislative parts, and many that I spoke to still have no idea how to approach the battery passports legislation or ESPR. For example, when I was talking with one person that was presenting, and they mentioned what defines a t-shirt. Is a t-shirt low? Is a t-shirt slightly higher? Right? So those are all things that standardization is also very important. So we don't end up having a bunch of problems on the long run. Later on, what's the definition of what?
Definitely. Thank you very much for your insights, and we really look forward to the next developments of the DPP, and we will see much more rolling on the solution on the ground. If there are any questions from the audience, I will ask them to use the chat for this purpose, and also Belen and David, feel free to share any additional links to your affiliations and your current work to share them with the audience. Now, for the sake of time, I will go to the next section, in which we will have a presentation from Sven Schoppe. I will leave the floor to him, and my apologies, try to be quick and go to the point so we can also hear from the next speakers later. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours. Sorry, Sven, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Do you see my presentation? I think so. Or do you see?
Perfectly.
Perfectly. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Actually, I was quite honored when I was invited. I don't have a lot of the helicopter approach and the, let's say, the high-scale issues we discussed in this session. So we will go down knee-deep into daily operations for a few minutes. I was asked about our company's digital journey. My company is active in, let me see how this works, just a second. Here we go. Yeah, so my company is active in textile services. I have for a long time developed textile services for the industry that works for hospitals and healthcare institutions. A lot of these standard services you see in these days, textile services operations without Europe, they might have been cooked up in our kitchen during the last like 30 years. And we are also helping customers on the healthcare side to tender their demands on infrastructural service. There's 3 infrastructural services: textile service, cooking and catering and cleaning. So we help hospitals and healthcare institutions to articulate what they want, and we help professional laundries to answer on those queries. I've been asked to talk to you as Leo System, but another company that I'm active in that has grown much bigger these days, and that is actually a good example how our digital journey is Texeo, and we're doing RFID system integration into these textile service supply chains. And some of you, especially those experts in Germany, may know some of our products that we plan, install, and maintain in hospitals and senior residences. Those are Texeo garment dispensing systems. I would like to tell you some about the challenge we have in Germany as in Europe as well, maybe the solutions we have and how they are accepted in the market. So what actually is the challenge? Healthcare workers in Europe are required to wear hygienically reprocessed workwear. I've been trying to collect some numbers. I know a lot of numbers from Germany, but looking at the EU 27, we do have roughly 13.5 million healthcare workers. And though the ones who are working with the patients and who have workwear required, there's different estimations between 2023 and 2025 between 8.5 and 10 million healthcare workers. I would like to break it down to Germany as an example. I know pretty well that we have roughly 3.5 million healthcare workers in hospitals, inpatient and outpatient care, as well as in medical and dental practices. Those 3.5 million people are not there every day. Roughly, some of them have 4 weeks, some of them have 6 weeks vacation, some of them are ill. So roughly around 85% of these 3.5 million people, they do require fresh and hygienic workwear and protective clothing every day. That is for their working field to protect themselves and, of course, the patients they work with. Because the workwear they use, they are near to the hospital bed. And due to these daily and close contacts between worker and patient, the role of workwear in contamination risk is scientifically accepted. So there is a need that this workwear is changed regularly. And in some countries, not in all European countries, but in some countries, there is specific requirements on that. So we have in Germany, we have the German Society for Hospital Hygiene, and they say workwear has to be changed immediately in the event of contamination, which is observable contamination, usually every 2 days or more frequently if necessary. And I'm quite sure that in a lot of European countries, although maybe not written down, but there is something around the same requirement to control the contamination risks in hospital hygiene. So this brings us to some numbers. We have seen that the seamless provision and hygienic reprocessing of workwear is crucial. So if we have all these 3 million healthcare workers in Germany, to have an average change of at least 2.5 to 3 times per week made possible. Every worker would need to be equipped with like between 14 or 16 items of personalized garments. That would be something like 6 shirts, 6 trousers, or maybe even 7 shirts and some gowns if they are doctors. All of them would be connected to like my name, and if I'm on holidays, if I'm ill, if I'm on some schooling events, all of these garments would be in my locker and would not be used. And because hospital logistics, we have heard about AI in laundries just before, because hospital logistics and laundry logistics have to run very smoothly together, and the garment has to be transported to the laundry, has then to come back to the hospital, has then to come back to the wearer. Even with like 40 or 60 personalized garments, the worker is actually not able to change more than like 3 times per week. So what we see, we see that because we provide some systems where we are able to collect a lot of data. What we see is a lot of healthcare worker groups change less than they actually should, therefore causing risks in hygienic environments and hygienic issues. If you are not able to, if you don't have easy access to workwear, you may change less or even wash at home, which is hygienically not acceptable as well. So what could be the option? The title is Sharing is Caring. Some of you textile service experts anyways know the difference between a so-called personal garment and a pool garment. A personal garment is where a garment carries my name and is only available for me, but a pool garment supply would be that I always have access to a shirt or a trouser in a certain size. But I'm not the exclusive owner of the garment. The garment could be, after I dispose it, could be hygienically reprocessed and then worn by another person that needs the same size of it. So that actually could reduce the amount of garments needed for a good textile service in approximately around 35 to 40%. And projected to that to the German healthcare workers with the 3 million, that would mean you have either 27 million garments that serve these 3 million hospital workers, or you have 42 million garments that serve these hospital workers. And that is only Germany. We have seen some numbers for Europe as well. But of course, if something is anonymous, you have to be very careful to prevent losses. How can you track and trace these articles? How can you track and trace these the life cycle of the products? We have heard about the digital product passport, but tracking and tracing every individual item is key to prevent the loss of anonymous item, and therefore to keep textile services economical. That is really important because textile services in hospitals around Europe is one of the most expensive infrastructural services a hospital can purchase. As I said, these 3 infrastructural services, a textile service company supplies a hospital between 100 and 250 times a year. Because this is such a labor-intense service, and we have heard from WFK that we are trying to get robotics into textile service and laundry operations. But I have attached a textile service cost index from the UK that is only between 2025 and 2026 with a cost rise of 4%, 4.5%. Within the last 3 years, textile services costs have risen roughly about around 16%. So keeping these services economical is crucial for hospital and the cost pressure in healthcare systems. And there's also a huge ecological perspective. Because in that very little graph you see there, you see that the main CO2 carbon footprint is actually produced in the manufacturing of a textile product. whilst the use phase only creates a small impact on the carbon footprint. So extending the use phase would help SMEs and would help, of course, also hospitals in reducing their carbon footprints. And of course, the DPP support that we will hear about in a second will be embedded and therefore gives a lot of logistic advantages to textile service companies. So what have we done to create a service that actually could move from personalized garments to pool garments? We have attached, and that is actually quite young technology, we have attached UHF RFID transponders to every single item, to every single textile article. That is not only workwear, that can also be flat linen, like towels, like bed sheets, like spreadsheets, everything. And the thing on that is that this UHF RFID transponder is attached permanently and lives with the product. So you can reprocess it like 200 times. You can even sterilize it in some certain cases it's necessary. And this gives you the chance that you can track and trace every single textile item throughout its lifetime. Of course, and as we have heard before, this transponder does not work alone because it's a so-called passive item. It must be embedded in some technology. There is technology that submits energy to this transponder, wakes this passive item up, asks this transponder, what's your name? The transponder tells, the tag tells the antenna, the reading systems, the middleware, what the name is, and therefore you can actually categorize this item and bring it to the through the takeout and accounting process. I will show you a little video on that, how this looks in everyday operations. Bear with me if it's not as smooth, but see. So we have a person here in a hospital, and this person enters a closed area, identifies himself that he is allowed to go into the to take out garments. And he chooses the garments he needs for his working shift. And through the RFID tag and him passing a UHF reading barrier, those items are connected to him until, again, he disposes them into some cap for soiled garments. We're even able to control their contingents. We're even able to send people back if they have too many garments. And you see those two garments were now connected to the wearer, and they're connected to the wearer as long as he wears them until he disposes them off. And so with that, we are able, and in connection with a highly agile software, we are able to record and to create an account for every wearer we serve, and we are able to create a history. Does the wearer change on demand? Does he change on how often he should? What garments did he wear? How many garments did he destroy? How long does he have these garments in his locker? Do those garments circulate enough? We are able to make this huge amount of textile flow transparent. We are able to identify fast movers, slow movers. So actually textile service with this software system and the components we install in customers' organization, we are able to optimize the flow of goods by reducing it and making textiles 24/7 more accessible for the wearer. So actually, what we have grown into as an SME provider for hospitals and or for laundries that are SMEs themselves, we are very humble on the success we have with the combination of hardware and software systems, because in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, more than 150,000 people daily start their working routine with a visit to a Texeo system. So 24 hours, 7 days a week, open, easy access to the garments they need. So we are administrating roughly 1.5 million garments every day. We administrate roughly 5 million data sets per day with accounting. So these 150,000 people, they are working in roughly 112 or 115 hospitals and old people's residences around Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And what we are very, very proud of, healthcare institutions, they have to tender their services every like 2, 3, or 4 years. And we're doing this for roughly 10 years now. And today, in around every tender that every hospital in Germany makes, a service like that is actually required from the laundry to give a concept on how to deal with worker supply in a hospital. So what we have achieved so far is we have provided a huge service for healthcare workers' convenience and improvements in hospital hygiene, as I said, 24/7 accessibility to hygienically reprocessed garments. We have achieved a giant leap in transparency of this previously anonymous flow of goods. These anonymous pieces now have their own identity. They can be tracked. They can be tracked throughout their life cycle, reused for like 50, 60, 80, or 100 times. We are able to minimize the all of a sudden vanishing of a product. And what most importantly we have reached is we were able to create new business models for SME textile service companies in this pressurized market for healthcare institutions, because we are now able to involve the customer in his responsibility for the leverage of economic efficiency. So we can tell the customer, hey, we delivered you 100 pieces or 500 pieces or 5,000 pieces, and you're not bringing them back. And we are able to name them. And we're even able to tell you where they are. So you just go bring them back. So we're able to circulate them, to rent them again, because that is what these articles were made for. So our mission and our story as Texeo, as an SME ourselves, is we are assisting other textile service SMEs with transforming their internal production processes. We have heard about that before. And more importantly, the external service processes. And we're able to bring them into the digital age and to provide intelligence and digitalized services to their customers. We always look with our technology expertise, what is the customer's challenges, not only the laundries, but the hospital's challenge as well, or the industrial company's challenge. And we provide services that adapt flexibly to the individual's needs, and most importantly, work reliably. And what else we have shown is we have something commonly, and I have to read that, commonly perceived as being profane as a textile, can be digitized, can be made intelligent, and can be equipped with intelligent services, so that all the data things we have been talking about are there. And maybe in the near future, we are talking about AI assistance for our customers, so that they can fumble with the huge data sets we create throughout the time to look and predict and plan their textile services, and to better understand how to make textiles available for their daily and crucial operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben, for the excellent presentation. And I think it's a perfect example to see how digital technologies can be applied in the company setting, industrial setting, and can really support the different ecosystem. As you said, even as profane as textile can really benefit from digitalization, and it's actually really beneficial to include this digital component. However, now for the next section, we will also see that we need the digital skills actually, and the personnel that can really work and support the implementation of the digital solution in the industrial setting. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker from the European Digital Skills and Job Platform. We have here Sabrina Vorpau, and she's project manager at European Schoolnet.
Thank you, Gabriele. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for sharing my slides. And yeah, as Gabriele said, my name is Sabrina Vorbau. I'm project manager at European Schoolnet, and I'm here to present you the Digital Skills and Jobs platform, which is a European Union funded initiative, which is we at European Schoolnet coordinate on behalf of the European Commission, together with a partnership that is consisted by Digital Europe, the Digital SME Alliance, Public Libraries 2030, LICTA, and also our technical partner, Tremen. So within the next 10 minutes or so, I will give you a short overview and introduction to the platform, and then of course I'm available to answer any questions. As you can see, we are proudly advertising the Digital Skills and Jobs platform as the home for digital skills in Europe. We see it as a central hub for all stakeholders that are interested in digital skills, that would like to get more information, would like to invest in their professional development, but also networking and matchmaking. Through this QR code, you can access the platform to get a better picture what it entails, but simply saying it offers high quality content, an overview of European but also EU national initiatives on digital skills and jobs, good practices, training and funding opportunities, most specifically under the DEP program, the Digital Europe program, events and other opportunities and activities within the area of digital skills. There is a public interface, but there's also the Digital Skills and Jobs platform community that I will also introduce you in a minute. Obviously, the ambition of the Digital Skills and Jobs platform is also to support the targets set by the European Union, that by 2030, 80% of EU's citizens are equipped with basic digital skills. So we are monitoring this closely, also what is going on at national, at EU level. And we have this interactive map here that you can access on the platform to get a better understanding of the state of play in the different member states. And for this, we are of course relying on external resources and country information, but we also foster close collaboration with the so-called national coalitions, which are really our information hubs in the different member states that are regularly contributing content to the platform. So if you scroll around the platform, you will also be able to find many articles, but also events and training opportunities that happen at national level. As I said, there is the public interface, but there's also the Digital Skills and Jobs platform community. On the next slide, just to give you some figures, at this moment, we have over 16,000 registered members on the platform. And if you're not one of them yet, we would be very happy to welcome you. We have around over 25,000 monthly visits to the platforms and over 3,000 content items, but we are really working on a daily basis on this platform to keep it up to date as possible. In a nutshell, in terms of thematic areas, what you can find on the platform, literally everything that is concerned by the area of digital skills and jobs. We are obviously providing extensive information about existing EU policies, for example, from the Digital Decade Report over the Union of Skills, and also more insight in the DigCom frameworks. We are following, of course, the EU policies set by the President of the European Commission and also the specific directorates. We are following trends on current topics, just around virtual worlds, for example, but also artificial intelligence. So we are trying as much as possible to cover all the different angles and providing information that are relevant for different stakeholder types. So if you are registering to the community, you will find various types of functionalities. On the next slide is a very brief summary of what users but organizations can find. As said, it's a very extensive platform that offers a lot of content, but we of course want to offer also personalized experience and target the content that you can get from the platform as much as possible to your needs. So we have a content recommender on the platform that, based on when you fill in your profile, also already suggests you certain types of content and resources, for example. We are currently in the process of revising a training catalog that will come at the beginning of next year, will be launched at the beginning of next year, where users will be able to find different types of training offers from different types of training providers. So really have this one-stop shop catalog for the users to find different training offers, also in different languages, of course. For organizations in particular, we are also offering matchmaking opportunities, specifically also when it comes to funding opportunities. For example, as I said, we have an extensive overview of current projects that are operated under the Digital Europe program. And we are also providing opportunities about future funding cycles. And also interesting for industry and specifically SMEs, there's also the opportunity through the platform, through the community, to follow partnership requests, for example. Specifically of interest for this audience and for the industry is the Pledges initiative that we are offering. So pledges are a commitment by an organization to perform an action to develop digital skills of Europeans. So if your organization, your companies offer specific training that boosts basic digital skills, but also advanced digital skills, you have the possibility to feature your training, your initiative through this Pledges umbrella. This is basically a continuous open call that companies can contact us to feature their offer on the platform, and also for us to support the promotion of this initiative and training opportunity. Specifically linked to this, it's another initiative that is currently being invested in by the European Commission, which is the so-called sectorial academies. At this moment, we have the Cyber Security Skills Academy that is already connected to the platform, which is basically a group, a networking group of pledgers that specifically focuses on the topic of cybersecurity skills. There are currently 19 pledges under this specific academy group, and also a networking group that is linked to it. And in the recent digital summit that was organized by the Polish presidency in the summer, there was also the launch of the Industry and Academia Network with 8 partnerships. That said, this is one of the academies, and we are expecting in the first quarter of next year to have 3 more academies, sectorial academies, connected to the Digital Skills and Jobs platform, focusing on quantum, virtual worlds, and artificial intelligence. Currently, recently there was an open call for proposal launched under the Digital Europe program, where organizations were able, consortiums were able to submit their proposal that are currently under evaluation. So we are extending also this offer of the academies with these 3 new academies and content contributors joining in the course of the beginning of next year. In addition to this, also potentially relevant for this audience is the squad assessment initiative that we are working with which is a group of expert pledgers that are invited following an open call on the platform to closely collaborate with you over the course of several months to work on a specific output. And our current squad group is currently working on a playbook that will be launched in the course of this autumn, which will offer practical cybersecurity guidance for micro SMEs. So very targeted for this audience, and we would also be happy through the colleagues at Digital SME to share this playbook with you once it has been launched. If this sounds of interest to you and you would like to receive further information, we will soon open a call to join the squad for next year. So again, here we are also happy to share this with you. Lastly, as I said, in addition to the different varieties of content and funding opportunities and networking opportunities we offer on the platform, we are of course also organizing regularly events in the form of digital skills talks and webinars, but we are also always eager to seek user feedback to really ensure the platform is fit for purpose and really tailors the needs of the end users. In terms of events and talks and webinars, we are organizing every month the so-called digital skills talks, which are short 30-minute online sessions to get you started in your working day, 30 minutes conversations between experts on different topics that run every month. Our next talk is actually coming up next week. In the presentation, I hyperlinked here the registration if you're interested, and also as it's Cybersecurity Month, the focus will be on the cyber skills academies and also the work of the industry academia network. All our talks can also be found on our Facebook page. And as I said, these are really short expert conversations that we facilitate once per month. In terms of funding opportunities, as I said, this is a huge part of the platform as well. We are featuring opportunities within the Digital Europe program, the DEP program. And here we are also hosting potentially on a quarterly basis so-called info days. The last one we organized was on the academies that I just mentioned, and we had over 400 participants joining this. And towards the end of the year, we will also organize another info day where people can join that are interested in the calls and have the opportunity to directly exchange with the European Commission about the call and the funding opportunity. I would like to tease one more event that you may be aware of already that also could be of interest for you, is our annual flagship event, which is the European Digital Skills Awards, where we award and celebrate outstanding initiatives in the area of digital skills. And this year, this award ceremony is organized back-to-back with two digital summits, one on advanced digital skills coordinated by Leeds, and one on Women in Digital, also coordinated by the Women in Digital project. They will take place mid-November in Brussels. It's a 2.5 day event with a lot of networking opportunities as well. If you're interested to join us, I also added the QR code here to the registration. And to conclude, as I said, we are always keen to receive feedback from our users, but also people that are first-time visitors on the platform. So we currently have a short survey open to get some feedback on user experience of the platform and of the community. Yeah, if you're a user of the platform already, we kindly invite you by the 26th of October to leave your feedback. But also after this presentation, if you are a first-time visitor and you have some feedback for us already, we would be very grateful to receive it. With this, thank you very much for listening, and of course I will remain available for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you, Sabrina. It was a very interesting presentation, and feel free to share any links in the chat so that participants can also go directly to the platform itself. So now I would like to give the floor to our next speaker, Pedro Gonçalves, and he will present the large-scale partnership, especially for the textile sector. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabriele. Should I share from my sides then?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll try to see if my digital skills are on point today. Hopefully you can see it.
Perfectly.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, Gabriele, and the team at Digital SME Alliance, DTV, and the other organizers for forwarding us the invitation to this workshop today. So my name is Pedro Gonçalves, a Senior Policy Officer at Eratex, which is the European Apparel and Textile Confederation based in Brussels. And in the next 5-10 minutes, hopefully, I'll share with you a brief overview of some of the activities that we are engaged on to try to build these digital skills, promoting digital skills, the uptake of these digital skills and green skills, and how do we build these platforms to support the industry and the academia from our side as the TCLF Pact for Skills coordinator. So the TCLF Pact for Skills initiative is an initiative that was launched back in 2021, coming from the initial broader Pact for Skills initiative from the European Commission, which is basically a strategy that brings some commitments, some ideas for the different industrial ecosystems, including digital, the construction, tourism, and the TCLF. The TCLF stands for the textiles, clothing, leather, and footwear. And this document, the Pact for Skills initiative for our sectors, consisted in some objectives, including to promote the lifelong learning for all, the raising awareness for our own industries, to build partnerships between public and private organizations, to focus on this diversity topic, on the gender balance, etc. So at the time, from 2021 until now, we managed to compile a series of endorsements from various institutions across Europe. At the moment, we have 200 signatories that gave us a thumbs up for this Pact for Skills initiative for our industries. And from this community, we built this TCLF Skills Alliance, which is the community of the signatories of the Pact for Skills. So from our side, as this TCLF Pact for Skills coordinator, Eratex, together with the other two umbrellas at European level for the footwear and the leather, we from our side we felt the need to be involved in some projects, some initiatives to try to bring some of the results at the local, regional, and national levels. So we are involved in 3 projects, 2 of them Erasmus Plus blueprint projects, the Equalis for TCLF, the Meta Skills for TCLF, and another one under the Single Market Program, the TCLF Skill Bridge. So all of these initiatives have something in common. In some cases, they bring or try to build these partnerships. They also try to come up or to collect data, figures, information, which is something that we need very much if we want to be able to anticipate the skills needs in the future, if you want to be competitive, if the industries want to be ready for this twin transition. We need skills intelligence. Other objectives are to develop skill strategies at European and national levels, to create and develop new curricula on the green skills, on the digital skills, and also to promote and support the retention, or to retain the talent that currently exists in our workforce, and also engage with the younger generation, which is also very much needed in our TCLF industries. So our activities are very much spread throughout the entire Europe, from the south to the center, to the northern, eastern, western. So very much present in every country. And from here we have, based on these projects, deliverables and outputs, we start to build these intelligence, as we were mentioning. So on the digital skills, the surveys that we launch, and on the first years of these projects and the focus groups, we managed to collect some of the feedback, what are the skills needs, and evidently many of them mention the digital production and design aspects that needs to be further implemented at the education levels, at the company levels, the data and digital businesses. So some of the solutions that were already presented today, we need to train and upskill and reskill the workforce to be able to obtain this information, to use the DPP, for example, or the other cases, on the green and circular economy, considering all the new legislation coming in and affecting our industries in a couple of next years. Our industries need to be ready and to have the required skills on the green side of things, supply chain, compliance, and as well as more the transversal skills, which is always very much important and relevant. As mentioned, we also try to develop skill strategies. We recently launched a European level strategy, which tries to bring a series of examples, case scenarios, a roadmap per se that can be used at local, regional, national, and the European level, based on some of the objectives of the Pact for Skills. How do we transform that into real scenarios? How do we build on that and try to achieve all of these Pact for Skills objectives? So it was being recently launched. Now the idea is to try to do similar exercise, but at the national level. And then in a couple of years, we'll relaunch this activity. We're also producing, together with our colleagues in the consortium, new curricula on green and digital. So on meta skills, 6 micro-credentials, using some of these immersive formats such as augmented reality, virtual reality, and then equalities. We'll be building 8 micro-credentials, so with these modules that can be learned and used at any point. So any learner or any worker or an employed can use them and upskill and reskill themselves. And in the case of the equalities, we'll be using AI videos to teach some of these materials. One of our priority focus are to build these partnerships, especially at the regional level, because we feel that we need to be closer to the ground from a bottom-up perspective, as our TCLF, the textile, clothing, leather, and footwear, are very much spread throughout Europe in small clusters or in small areas, small regions, or some regions of our countries. So we try to build some kind of alliance, some communities at this level, bringing the associations and companies, together with the academia level and other relevant stakeholders, to really to study the challenges, to come up in one room and discuss these skills topics at their level. So we've been doing this exercise for a while, and hopefully in the future, in the next 2 years, we'll be able to say that we have at least or around 20 regional skills partnerships for our TCLF industries. At the moment, we have one official partnership which was established recently in Auvergne for the textile and clothing sector. And then once these regional skills partnerships are established, there are also support coming from our sides, and from the European Commission side, with hopefully some new funding opportunities for these stakeholders at the regional level that sign the Pact for Skills. Another activity that we are promoting as well is trying to bring all of the knowledge coming from these Erasmus Plus projects on skills for our TCLF industries into one big platform, because we feel that some of these projects, as they finish, then there's not so much things going on afterwards. There's no sustainability in a way, or some of our projects that are ongoing maybe have something in common with other projects that are ongoing. So we try to bring all of these projects, European funded projects, together into one community. It's called the Ecosystems, a Skills Education Working Group, which at the moment we have 11 Erasmus Plus projects that have the opportunity to already engage with the other 60 plus European funded projects coming from the Horizon Europe side, mostly on the sustainability and innovation. So this really gives opportunity for these projects to engage, to collaborate, to exchange knowledge, and also disseminate their events and activities throughout this community. There's also another platform, this time launched by the Commission side, that not only touches upon the skills, but the whole areas of interest for our industries. And this European Textiles Ecosystem Platform, which from our side, we're also pushing for people to sign up and join this platform, as there'll be news articles, legislative information coming in, funding opportunities, events. So anything that it's relevant for us, it's should be included in this platform as a one-stop shop for all, but for the textiles. So this is another platform. And yeah, this is just an example of some of the activities. I know that we didn't have much time, but I'm able or available to reply to some of your questions on the chat briefly, or through my email, which we can see on the slides. So thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Many thanks for the presentation. And yes, indeed, feel free to share any links within the chat, so the audience can also see what is actually happened under the large scale partnership for textile. And now, last but not least, I will also give the floor to my colleague at European Digital SME Alliance, Caterina Bortolazzo, because she's managing the digital large scale partnership.
Thank you very much, Gabriele, and it's good to see also friendly faces like Pedro and Sabrina with us today. Gabriele, are you sharing my presentation, or should I do it?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Just a second. Sorry, but my computer doesn't necessarily see my PowerPoint. Well, I will share the entire screen, and I think it's going to be easier. Okay, so you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, but in
Okay.
small presentation mode.
Now it should be in the big presentation mode.
Perfect.
Okay, good. So I'm Caterina Bortolaso, also, as Gabriele was mentioning, a colleague of European Digital SME Alliance, and I am Senior Project Manager in the organization. And in my work, I also coordinate the Digital Large-Scale Partnership that is, let's say, very similar to what Pedro just described, is within the Pact for Skills, the digital ecosystem. So I will briefly describe what it is. So you already know that the Digital Large-Scale Partnership, as I mentioned, is the Pact for Skills initiative that brings together the stakeholders that are interested in committed to equip the European workforce with the digital skills that are required by the EU Digital Decade target. And right now we have more than 150 stakeholders as member of the digital LSP. Of course, as you can imagine, the digital sector is very wide and can include very different kind of organization. The objectives, as I was mentioning, are to contribute to the EU Digital Decade target. So mainly equip 80% of people with basic digital skills, achieve gender convergence in the digital sector, and have 20 million ICT specialists employed by 2030. So we go in line with the most relevant European policies in the area of digital skills, similarly also to what the Digital Skills and Jobs platform is achieving. As I was saying, in the digital ecosystem, we have very different kind of actors, because you can find SMEs, but also bigger companies and universities or VT centers that focus on digitals, but also social partners and public authorities. So since digital is indeed a transversal topic in our ecosystem, there are all stakeholders that are active in the upskilling and skilling of the European workforce in the digital sector. So they are trying to digitalize their workforce, but also their organizations. But not only single entities, we also admit umbrella organizations and alliances, so such as projects and membership organizations, but also other large-scale partnerships. This is indeed also possible. Why becoming a member? So one of the first benefit is indeed the eligibility for blueprint projects. There are already a few blueprint projects that are active under the Digital Large-Scale Partnership. I will tell you a bit more about it later. And also we organize networking and matchmaking sessions for relevant open calls in the area of digital skills. But this also allows you to receive timely updates on funding opportunities, and I would say all other kind of exchange of best practices from projects or other or relevant organizations and stakeholders in the area of digital skills development. So trainings, but also skills needs analysis and other project results, but also technology outlook that comes from projects or from the work of organizations, but also the connection with other industrial ecosystems, such as, for instance, the textile. How to become a member? So if you're not a member yet, I would suggest you to go to the Pact for Skills website, where you can find the Pact for Skills application form. And what is most important is that the code for the Digital Large-Scale Partnership is 905. And you already need to make some commitments on the number of people that you plan to upskill and reskill in the digital sector. So what are the activities? As I mentioned already, the main activities are matchmaking events and info sessions. So normally it's a short info sessions followed by a matchmaking session, but also joint events with other LSP and workshops related to blueprint projects in the digital sector. That is also why we would like to launch thematic working groups for all the projects ongoing or concluded in the digital sector. Some of them already have partnerships and some others don't have that yet. For instance, there is AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, sustainability, and smart cities. And for AI, sustainability, and smart cities, there is for sure already a partnership in the area of skills development that works closely with the digital LSP. So, as I was mentioning, the active projects in the digital ecosystem are now ARISA, the Artificial Intelligence Skills Alliance so it's for the development of skills for the use of AI. Digital for Sustainability that focuses on the skills needed to use clean technology, so technologies for the green transition. And last but not least, SMARCO, Smart Community Skills Development in Europe, that started this year and focuses on the skills needed by smart engineers and public procurers to work in a smart community. So how to develop the skills needed to digitalize the staff of public authorities. How to join our event. So not only you should join through the Pact for Skills, but also you should join our networking tool that connects organizations with potential partner and serves as a hub for all those that are registered and also facilitates collaboration. So the first step to do that is to sign up to Partnerall. That is an integrated platform that features, as you can see from the screenshot, several thematic communities, and the Digital Large Scale Partnership is also one of these. So you see that in our networking community, we count now 629 members, and to only join that community, you can just go on the website and click on the thematic community for the Digital Large Scale Partnership. You can also see future events in the field. The next one will most likely be in January. How it works, so you just need to register your organization when there is an event, but also just register your organization on the platform. Then you can visit other organizations' profile and connect with them. So you can invite them when there is an event to a bilateral meeting. So on the day of the event, you will check your agenda and you will see all your meetings listed one after the other. So when you send a request and it's matched, automatically there will be an agenda created for your meetings. So the matchmaking can start. You can just join your scheduled meetings through the button that you will find on the platform. So now there are also other functionalities, the marketplace section that allows users to publish different kind of opportunities like services, but also products or partnership. And you can also use the filter research to make it easier to find what you're looking for in the marketplace. And also, this is very important at this point, it's also possible to send direct messages to participants even when the sessions are closed. So this functionality indeed facilitates the connection also beyond the specific event. And also makes a community stronger. So these are the main information about the digital large-scale partnership. I thank all of you for your attention, and I'm sorry that we ran a little bit late, but I'm sure that all the informations were needed. Thank you very much, Gabriele, and everyone for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Caterina. Many thanks for the presentation, and also feel free to send any links in the chat. In the meantime, we are wrapping up this session, so thanks a lot, especially for the participants that stick with us until this time. Don't worry, I will be very quick, and then I will let you enjoy your lunch, because I know it's already pretty late. So in the meantime, I launched a poll, so it's anonymous, but we would like to get some of your feedback on the workshop today, especially on the topics that we covered. So feel free to share any of your feedback here. It's pretty quick, takes only 30 seconds. So in the meantime, just to recap this event, we started with the European Commission with general presentation on the digitalization of SMEs, and also how the EU is actually supporting these developments. We also deep dive into particular topics from digitalization of the healthcare sector, but also identification and labeling, smart textile, cybersecurity and its requirements, and also AI. Then, of course, the section also focused especially on the application of the digital passport, together with the description of the technology, but also the standardization side that's underpinning this technology. And now, of course, we finished with all the European ecosystem and initiatives that are supporting the uptake of digital skills in SMEs. So I won't be much long. So thank you very much again for participating today. I take the chance to thank again all the excellent speakers that today made time to share the presentation and the insights. And we look forward to additional opportunities to collaborate and discuss these topics in the future. Thank you again, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day.